Ponytail Podcast. All right. Okay. Now we're cooking with oil.
Now we're recording.
Welcome everyone to the show, season 7 finale. We have a special episode today. We like doing these special episodes just to switch things up, make things not so different. So this is not going to be like all the other episodes you've heard where there's like ponytails and we're finding out what people are doing. We just decided to have the team minus NamJam. Let's do a quick moment of silence for NamJam. Okay, we were gonna do this with her, but she could not make it today, unfortunately. Although you guys will get to hear her full episode here on season 8, so coming up here shortly. But we wanted to take a time to highlight people. Book people love recognition. We love giving recognition, and I wanted to bring Avery and Jacob and Amy on the air to share some fun memories of this year, how we've grown, other funny stories as they come up, and to give a special shout out to Amy specifically because she's been actually in the background of a lot of our episodes doing a lot of work, as Jacob and Avery can confirm. But the reason she hasn't been on the air before is because she did not sell books. So every once in a while, everyone in a
regular human.
She's just normal. She has not been drinking any Kool-Aid at all. But we thought it'd be kind of funny for 2 reasons. One, because of all the hard work and to give her some limelight as we like to share people's voices on here. But two, because we do have honorary guests, we are willing to have people who didn't sell books on here if they mean a lot to either Southwestern or the show. Tabitha Taylor is a prime example of that. Trey Campbell would be another one if he ever wants to be on. Ralph Brigham is another person, right? If Mort Utley was alive, we'd have him on, even though he didn't sell books, right? And of course, Amy Lester, our producer here on the show. But we're going to do a twist here. We're going to ask throughout the episode, as stories come up, we're going to ask Amy to define some book terms in the way that she thinks they are defined based on what she's heard throughout the episodes of the podcast. So this should be a fun one because we're getting an outsider perspective on what this cult thing was or wasn't. So I guess maybe we should start with that one. Amy, do you think this is a cult? Do you think from what you've heard?
I've watched some documentaries about cults because I think they're interesting. I couldn't tell you which ones they are because it's like an in and out the brain kind of thing. There are some similarities, but kind of in the way that like any kind of religious organization, like any religious organization could be a cult where you have your terminology, you have your practices, you have your like rituals or whatever that might be. And there's this common shared knowledge around something that you get really hyped about and you want people to stay in it.
We gather on Sundays.
So, yeah, I mean, it's not a cult, but it's like maybe one standard deviation away from a cult.
Someone I think there actually might have been someone who's on the show. Cult is just short for culture, right? That's true.
There's strong
right?
cults. Sure.
Heard that.
But
Heard that.
we put the cult in culture.
Yeah. Yep.
For sure. Are you guys drinking? Oh man, I need to drink. I need to go make my alcohol. Oh, nice.
I drink water.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. Wait, thanks for answering that. That's fair. All right, so let's start defining some things. There's something that you've been asking me about and what it looks like, what it is, which is execs. So we'll let Amy first explain what she thinks execs are, and then Avery or Jacob, you could probably just define it, or like we can show a video, we can pull up a video of what they are. But in your mind, when you hear we did execs in the breakfast spot, you've heard so many people talk about this.
Yeah.
At sales school. What does it look like? Describe as best as you can what you think it looks like as someone who's never even.
I know. I feel like I can like show my chops a little bit later when we get to some other questions about my understanding of like the Southwestern things, but exec still kind of eludes me because no one really ever describes it. Like everyone knows.
All of us.
Yeah, everyone knows what it is, but they never get into details about it. So, we're episode 180, whatever, 182. And I've listened to all of them and no one has like given me a good definition of exec. So what I imagine it to be is It's the butt crack of dawn. You have just snarked like an egg and a piece of toast for under $3 ideally.
She's
And
right so far.
then
So,
you and
so
your
far, so good.
little you and your little band, probably your
Air band.
y'all march out to the parking lot. And then it's some sort of like song, chant, hyping, like I imagine jumping and dancing, or like a jump dance of sort is involved, and probably like some headbanging. But I don't know what you're saying. I've like caught like whiffs of different songs. I was like, oh, I sang a version of that at camp, like as a 10-year-old. So I like that's as good as I've got. I don't know. Am I close?
I have a yes.
Yeah.
I mean, yes.
Surprisingly so.
Okay.
I have a thing to compare to that might clear things up. It's a lot of them are some sort of a call and response.
Okay.
Yes.
So
That's fair.
it's kind of like cheerleaders have the "My name is Tina. Yeah, I like to dance." Whatever. I'm not a cheerleader, but a lot of them
Don't say
are
Could have
are-
fooled me.
a lot of them are like that, in where there's some sort of setup, and either it results in some sort of action, or some
Kinda like
sort
this.
of like
Kind of like this. Let me see your funky chicken.
What's that you say?
I said, let me see your funky chicken.
What's that you say?
That's right. And then it keeps going, and I'm not gonna.
and then you do your funky chicken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's
Okay.
okay.
Okay, so the nerdy side of me is going to come out, and my friends
Good.
can attest that the more I drink, the nerdier I get. So we'll just see where this goes.
Yes.
Yes.
But there's something about how our bodies process stress that physical exercise is one of the best ways to like move the stress through our bodies. And I just read a really amazing book about this called, I'll come back to that. Emily Nagoski. She's a great author and a great scientist. And so like when we have this buildup of stress in our bodies, like it has to go somewhere, and it often gets like bottled up or it gets released in unhelpful ways. But I imagine there's something scientific to doing execs where like you're kind of nervous for the day to go, or you've got stress built up from the night before, and and like to just be able to flail around, like gets that moving so that you can start the day fresh.
Yeah.
You almost look like you were doing execs just now.
They also say that it's
Initiated.
The reason why I was told that we do execs, because it's like, why are we doing these weird dances? Even though I loved it, I was like, energy, everybody's hype. Like sales school, I was like, this is awesome. Like I loved all of it. Oh shoot, I lost my train of thought. Oh, but
Why we do
sometimes at
execs?
breakfast spot, people will be watching you, and it's like it is a weird thing to do, because like if think about it, not a lot of people like to dance or like to like move their body, but then all of a sudden they're like, all right, I guess we're doing this, and it's uncomfortable and it's weird, kind of like everything else that we do in that program. And but you do it anyway because you're like, all right, do something weird in the morning, sure, get the nerves out. But that also makes
yeah, it's incredible because like when you first start, like you and the three of us here have been there as the first time we did them, and as managers when we ask other people to do them. And it's interesting because the first time I remember seeing the execs, I was the first one to jump in. Like the cool card was lost, which we'll ask you to define what a cool card is probably next. But the first time I remember thinking like, fuck it. I was so committed to being coachable that I didn't care, but I could see other people not wanting to jump in and look silly. Which is kind of what Avery was saying, is you need to get accustomed to looking silly. That's why we take cold showers, because it's like you got to get accustomed to be embarrassed, because it's going to be embarrassing to knock on someone's door and try to sell them something. That's really why it's scary. Yeah. And then the rejection too. So embarrassment and rejection.
There's also some stress science about cold showers and how that's built into that, so that you can like
so
you're on it too. You're on it, Amy. But then as managers, when you show up and you try to get the first years to do it, you're like, oh, these, and you see that they're too cool to do it. It's just so interesting to just break. It's just a good way to break down your ego, I think.
Yeah.
Before you go and knock on some doors. Jacob, you had a thought.
I was going to say, when Amy brought up the whole science thing, when I think of it, there's actually a lot of examples of like, I guess just like like just like circumstantial science things that go along with the mental things Southwestern talk about. So like whether it's execs, like the reason we do it is to not take yourself too seriously, but like you're saying, the side effect of the science thing. Same with cold showers. The reason we do it is to choose the more difficult option, which is a cold shower instead of a hot shower. But as a side effect, cold showers are healthy for you. For breakfast, we're told to eat pancakes, like 10 customer pancakes. But as a side effect, pancakes is bread with carbohydrates, is good for morning energy. It's kind of just funny. A lot of the things we do for mental and emotional reasons have like a scientific side effect that's also good. It's funny.
And like whether that was known in 1880 whatever, 60 whatever, whenever this whole thing was started, like maybe not, but it's interesting that those are the practices that have either developed or remain. That, I mean, Andres, you mentioned Jim Potts a lot of times of going back to like 1968, and just these similar practices have been embedded within the program, and they stick because they work, because they may have dual purposes. So that's cool.
Fair enough. All right. Do you want to try to define a cool card, or do Avery and Jacob have a different question for Amy to define?
I think cool card works.
Okay.
I like cool card, yeah.
Okay, the first time I heard cool card, I thought they like, and maybe they do, literally give you a card when you go to sales school as a first year. And then there's some presentation or something where you have to like throw your cool card or like rip it up and like throw it on the ground. Or if you want to pick it back up, that's up to you. So I've had this like dramatic idea of like a physical card that represents your cool card. Based on your reactions, I don't think that's true. But it's just like this idea that, oh, I'm too cool to do these crazy things, so I'm going to not. But like you kind of have to get over that ego. And Southwestern calls it the cool card. So when did you lose your cool card?
No, you nailed it.
Yeah, on the head.
Is there a real physical card that they give you?
No.
A 2x3x5 no card.
Okay.
At least
We never got one.
Oh, you guys
They
never
don't
got one?
anymore.
Oh,
No,
wow.
we
You know, if you
Wow.
did paper maps,
This is
if you
interesting.
did paper maps, then you had an actual cool card. Once you didn't get paper maps, then it was a metaphorical.
You're a little cool.
Yeah.
They've cheaped
It'd be
out
like a funny.
on the innate cards.
Wait, no, I bet you the Force still does it. The way we used to do it for you TD and Eagle Blitzers that aren't as cool as Force, or are more cool than Force.
Avery's not TD.
Who are you? JYD? Yeah, whatever. Non-Forcer. Because the non-Force people were better because they weren't as cool. But we would get like no cards, and you would write, "Man, I am so cool. I am so cool." And then you write down like, I am so cool. I don't even need this silly card to be cool. And so, but what would happen is you would give it to like everybody, but then you would find the one or two, and you guys know what this is, like the one or two people that were like super cool, like so cool. Like the kid that walked in with the polo with the collar up, and you're like, this kid, this, the frat boy, right? The
kid that wears his
I'm gonna be the number one
book
first
bag
year,
with one strap.
Yeah. He's got the visor upside down, and you're like, oh yeah, this kid.
Oh yeah.
This kid right here. He comes to the first day of sales school with slides. You know what I'm talking about? You're just like, what are you doing wearing slides, bro? We're gonna be running up the damn hill.
I thought about a PowerPoint presentation.
Andres, we get it. We get the picture.
I know you get the picture. I just want to make sure it's like you knew this kid. Anyway, that kid, we gave him a big ass paper cardboard box like thing, and that's his cool card, and he has to write it on the big cool card. And so then we get it, we read it out loud. I don't even need this cool card to be cool, and then we rip it up, and then the other kid just like has to like really rip it. So that's how we do it. But good job, Amy. You nailed it. That's that's the cool card.
Gosh, such an interesting thing to do. Like when you hear, like, imagine someone who hasn't done this yet, and they're like, "What the heck, a cool card?" Like, such a cool thing to be like weirded out by, but it's just it does work. Like I was excited to ask this question because of the conversation around like ego and doing this job and just life. But that's such a good like, oh, you're too cool to try this, this crazy thing. It might be the best thing ever, it might not, but it's like you're just so close-minded almost.
And like what doesn't make sense.
Your concept, your cool card, but it makes a lot of sense. It's very simple.
And like, but like, what doesn't make sense is like, I feel like if you're gonna be cool, like, don't come to sales school. Like, if you just drove like 9 hours or so, and your friends aren't there, and you're doing the thing, like, I feel like you've passed the point of no return to be cool. You know what I mean? It's
You're
like, if you're
already
gonna be
drinking
cool,
some level of Kool-Aid.
yeah, like if you're gonna be cool, now's not the time. You missed your chance of where it's the time to be cool.
Yeah.
Like, you're not cool anymore. You're gonna sell books door to door.
Well, and I think there's something
There's no
really
being cool.
Yeah, like having listened to so many episodes and getting to meet different book people at Bisler and you're just like kind of piecing together this community. There is something weird about y'all. And I think it is that
Amen,
willingness
sister.
to step outside of normal and like be willing to do a hard thing. And I think that's really honorable. Like I've thought over all these episodes that I've listened to, I think there might be only 2 people thus far who could have convinced me to sell books. And that's Yvette and Jessica Lackey, Jessica Roberts. Now,
Yeah,
it's just
you're
like
not
their
saying no to
personality
Yvette.
types. Like, I think I would have gravitated towards you, but no offense, but like everyone else, like, I don't think I would have bought into it. I don't think that I could have done it. I did other hard things in college and after college, but like doing this does take a specific type of someone who is willing to go against the grain. And in a couple of episodes, I won't even say which one. So everybody, you have to listen to it. But talking about
Story for Bisler. Story for
Bisler.
Bisler.
Yeah, or in a couple of episodes. Being able to like recognize this quality in your kids or in other people that you recruit of like, wow, that's really honorable that you would be willing to push against society's normal and do something that's really hard and challenging for a greater good. And I think that's amazing. And I really respect y'all for doing this thing and losing your cool card and doing it for a whole summer, for multiple summers. Wow.
Yeah.
Do you think now, knowing you said off that question of like Yvette and Jessica, do you think when you go back, do you ever think that you could, if you had heard about this or if you had been at the info session, what about it would have like attracted you from those? Like, what about Yvette and Jessica made you go like, oh, I would have totally followed them to battle or whatever?
Yeah. So honestly, like my sister almost sold. She's 1 grade older than me. And
I didn't know that.
She called my mom. I don't know if I was in college yet or if I was still in high school. And my mom said something about like, Allie thought she was going to go do this like book selling thing in New York, but they didn't even have a place to live. Like, there's no way she's going to go do that. And she didn't. So there's like, I kind of always knew about it of like, oh, sister almost did this thing.
Yeah.
Which is totally right. Like, it wouldn't be a different thing. It would be selling books with Southwestern. But I think there's something about those 2 women's character and like how they talk about the benefits that they could see from the experience that I don't know, I gravitated towards their way of being. And I think knowing who I was back in college, and I'm older than all y'all, so that was even more years ago. Also apologize if you can hear the giant truck going down the street.
No, it's okay.
It's all right.
Scraping the snow. Yeah, I think also like how their faith directed a lot of their decision making. Like that was a huge thing for me in college and like being surrounded by a really strong faith community. And that's honestly like that was why I made the decisions that I made during my summers of what do I want to do and invest in and places I want to go. And so for that would have been a strong component that could have maybe convinced me, swayed me into the cult, if you will.
Yeah. And, you know, I think kind of going along with like what you pointed out, like how you say that book kids are willing to go against the grain. I think like when Andres talks about how like all book kids are ponies, I think like at least one of the factors that makes a book person even before they're recruited is not necessarily that they're willing to go against society, but that they're willing to because they are able to realize that it's worth it in the long run.
Whether
I think
it's
the
for a
reason-
paycheck or it's for character development. And like it might
Exactly.
be one or the other, and then both are side benefits. Who knows?
Well, like, and kind of going with what you're saying, you know, the fact that you were so attracted or inspired or would be by Yvette or anyone, it's probably because you, when you were sitting in the info, you would just be willing to go against the norm in order to be who you like, the kind of person Yvette is, or have what she has. And I think like, because we, me, Andres, and Avery, we've all interviewed and recruited people, and we've straight up told them the literal fact that if you do what everyone else does, you'll end up like everyone else. If you do different things, you know, different things. And just most people, they're just not willing, when given the opportunity, because not everyone's given the opportunity, they're not willing to go against the curve to get what they know they want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's like one of the factors, at least, when Andre talks about ponies.
Mm-hmm. That reminds me of a question that I would love to ask you all. Speaking of recruiting, are there people that you did not accept? It feels like it's kind of a joke where of like, oh, I might not make it past the second interview or whatever. It's like everybody makes it past, but like, what is the rejection rate?
First of all, I was one of those kids that was like,
Same.
I have to sell myself. Like, I need to. When I was a first year, I was the one. I think I talked about that on my podcast. It was like, I really thought not everyone got.
See,
yeah,
and then people laugh just like that, and I'm like, oh,
no, because it's funny that like because a lot of students you would select, like, I don't know, I fall on the side of, and this is also something that was taught to me, like I fall on the side of believing in people rather than not, and if anything, and they don't come out, they go cold, because it's more likely, I think, for them to go cold meaning them to decide to not come out for the summer, right? It's more
on
likely
their own.
they'll do that on their own. Yep, on their own.
Like when you recruit them, and before you get to sales school, they like just don't show up and they stop wanting to come.
Yeah.
They go cold.
They ghost you. They're kind of just like, or they might not ghost you. They might just decide not to. But it's more likely for that to happen than for me to be like, I don't think you can come out. But I've definitely had people on my team and told them that I don't think it's good for them to come out. Reason being, I just didn't emotionally, I did not think it was going to be good for them. Or it was just like, you're still not getting this and you think you are. There's just like one kid that I remember that just like was almost making a joke of the interview process, but like wanted to do it. And I was like, I don't want to work with you. I don't even want to talk to you anymore. Like, I just don't, it was just a weird thing. So yes, that's definitely happened. But most people I would take on my team.
Yeah.
If they want to do it, I'll take them.
Yeah. Similar to Avery, so before Southwestern, I had never gotten an internship, never even gotten a real job. I was a camp counselor. And so, like, same thing. When I interviewed with Maddie, I was like, oh, well, how many people do you hire? She was like, oh, I have 7 spots on my team. And I was like, whoa, that's a low number, because you guys talk like thousands of people. And I was like, man, that's tough to get it. And then even when I got it, I was like, man, I must be awesome, because I got 1 of 7.
I got 1 of 7.
But to answer your question, I mean, there are definitely different schools of thought in Southwestern. So I would say there's like 2 main ones. There's people that are like, you got to be selective, because if you're selective and you recruit high caliber people, it'll attract other high caliber people, and it's a refeed loop. So they're like, really intense in the info, really intense interviews, and kind of creates that aura of selectivity that like me and Avery felt. And then there's people that fall into the category of what I call like military selectivity. And the analogy is, the Marines will take anyone, but not everyone can be a Marine. Mm-hmm. And like when you're interviewing someone, if you think that even if they're willing to go out, they really won't do well, and it really won't be a good experience for them, it's just not fair to them to select them. And so it is rare, I would say, but there are cases where just for them and for you and for the team, it just doesn't make sense to bring them out because it would be a good experience for them.
Yeah.
My thoughts on this is actually so first of all, what Jacob said is actually correct, and what Avery said is absolutely correct. I think that there are people in Southwestern who recruited correctly and had a really good, it was an art form to it. I think I'll answer personally first, but I think I'll probably answer what I think overall happened. So personally, I subscribe more to the camp of selectivity. You got to work hard, study hard, be coachable. Those are the three things that they tell you have to be. For me, somebody had to have naturally two of those three, and then my job as a recruiter and manager and trainer was to hone in on the third one that they needed to work on. So, for example, my second summer when I took Danny out, I knew he could work hard and I knew he could be coachable, but he did not study hard. So I'm like, okay, at some point he's going to have to, or he's going to sink, right? I had another kid, I won't say names in case he ever listens to this, but he was a workhorse. I mean, really, really, and he studied hard too. Not very coachable, so I mean, that's what I tried.
That cool card a little too.
Yeah, right. So I always worked on those two. And that's how I always saw it. I also believe, still do, that there's like a bell curve where anybody within that bell curve could go sell books. Not everyone could do really well, but they all could get something out of the program that really was going to help them grow. And then there was in each of the bell curve, one of them was like not so sharp kids. And it sounds mean to say that way, but I'm sorry. There's if you picked out 1,000 kids, one of them is not going to be sharp as the sharpest person. That's life. Everybody's equal. No, they're not. Some people are not as smart. Some people are not as capable. Some people are not sorry, that's just how it is. It's not a character flaw. It's not a value proposition of who they are as a human. It's like they're just, for this program, who they are, milk and honey, whatever the hell it doesn't make
water.
Whatever, oil and water.
Okay.
On the other hand, there was a kid, and this happened every once in a while. We've heard this on the episodes where the kid was just too sharp. Where you're like, dude, you're actually, this would be like a detriment to what, you got an internship with NASA and you're an engineer and you want to be a rocket scientist. You should probably go to the NASA internship and not go sell books.
Those hurt the most.
Yeah, that sucks. Because the thing is with those people is this experience would be great for the resume, but they're into where they are dream. I think it was Naomi actually that talks about this in her episode, which we already recorded, but we're going to talk whatever you guys.
I know who you're talking about
later. But there was a person
that was really hard.
It was one of those situations. It was one of those situations. So there's that too, right? So understanding the 2 out of 3, and then also that, hey, some people they should just not come out, and some people should come out but can't because they have actually a better opportunity for them. Now, that all being said, to what Jacob said, I also think it depends on the recruiter. There were some people who were amazing at generating buzz about what the program was, but then once people were in, they sucked at training them. That's an art. Then there was people who were terrible at getting people in on their teams, but they always produce high caliber people. I was that person. I was not good at getting a lot of names, but the people that came in, I trained them and they always did well. Like I trained Danny and Aisha. I take pride in that because and then people would send people to me for PCs and stuff because I could train well. I just couldn't get people in the door. And then there was your fucking unicorns, like your Pedro Vegas and your John Stewarts and your Yvette's and Matt Atchison's, where they would where they would just recruit a shit ton of people and then all of them were good. And it was stupid. You're like, what the fuck? How? And so depending on how your strengths were, that should also apply to how you decide to be selective, because all of the things that Jacob said were true, where it's both of those mentalities are good, where you recruit the masses and let the herd thin out on its own because of the nature of the program, or you just take sharp iron sharpens iron. And so it was this team of 5 people, but they were all producing a ton. It's hard. And it's honestly, we're 20-year-olds trying to learn this about ourselves and others. So then it was how do you how do you determine that correctly? It's hard.
Yeah. And to give a personal example, I mean, in all objective ways, I probably shouldn't have been recruited. And I asked like Maddie, who recruited me, like, why did you recruit me? Because I went out and I sold, and like Andres, Amy, you guys have only known me a few years. Avery still only knew me after my first summer. So, like, but before Southwestern, I was not the most confident person. I never studied. And my first summer, like, I did really bad. Like, 600 units is probably top 100 for worst summers ever, full summers. And so,
But
like,
you are not your unit. Okay, it's a learning process.
but I was
Yes, you
then.
are. Fucking suck.
Amy, just so you know from now on, the people that say you're not your units are people that didn't sell a lot of units.
Yeah.
Or they are full of the most full of shit when they say that. Either way.
Yeah, because they think they are. But yeah, like I did not do well in the first summer, didn't do much better in second or third. But and so like if you were being selective, Maddie probably shouldn't have brought me out. But and this is not always true. Me and Anders have talked about this. I'm a rare case, but like it did work out that I was selected. You know, I grew a lot, did a lot better, and much better off, and I would hope Southwestern is better off because of it. That is not most cases, but every now and then someone will get recruited that maybe shouldn't have, and it'll end up better for everyone. But that's not always the case.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really cool that like I guess I guess I wouldn't necessarily agree that it's a rare case, mostly because I know a lot of people that has happened to, where their first summer was like not what they expected it to be, but then their second and third, fourth, fifth, and even further are like, thank God I sucked that first time because I got to learn so much faster. Whereas like my experience was different. Like I didn't sell a huge amount, but I was a top first year, but I felt like this arrogance almost of like, oh, I've got this figured out. And I didn't really try to, like, technically, I didn't really prepare my second or third summer just because I was like, oh, I know how to sell. I did it my first summer. So I think that there's almost, there's there's good and bad ways to look at everything, or like you can view things from both sides. But that's like, I know, like the Petroskis, I freaking love those guys. They both, like both Ray and Andrew didn't have the best first summer, but like both of them are doing great now. Like awesome, like DSL vision type awesome. And they have just worked so hard to get there. It's been a lot harder for them, but they have just put in the work now that's going to help them the rest of their lives. So I don't know.
I mean, okay. So on that, there's a couple of thoughts on that. Well, one, I go back to that bell curve, and it sounds like Jacob, you were more on like from where you were at the time. At that point, you weren't sharp enough to be like amazing at this, but you were still within that bell curve where it's like, if you do this, it'll definitely help you. So then when you came back your second summer, you were more towards the center of the bell curve because you were sharper, right? And then you did better. And then so the idea is you start moving towards the other side of the bell curve, which is really what happens, right? You start moving towards the sharper end of the bell curve, and less people. Those are your DSLs, right? That's where they end up. Some people start there and end there, right? You're talking your Matt Atchison's started there, ended there. Yvette sold barely enough in Sizzler, right? But by the end, she was one of the most legendary people that I ever. She'd be in like the Mount Rushmore maybe of Southwestern, right? So she kept moving around like all the way to the other side of the curve. And but as long as you're within it, it's all good. And that's why. But some of this, and I'm gonna get shit for this from maybe people on this call and maybe people who listen. But some of it has to do a little bit with luck. And hold on, because you say that you got lucky in how you produce, and people will fucking, I did it myself. Yes, but you got lucky that your manager didn't suck. Or on the other hand, maybe it's a good thing that your manager sucked. We had we talked, Bill Zissy is a prime example of this, but we've had people on the show where it's like, yeah, my manager fucking sucked, and I was like, I'm better than this guy, and then that actually was a good thing for them because they were able to do better, right? On the other hand, you had people whose managers was incredible and their training was really good, and so luckily they got into the right HQ. We've heard a lot of people say, I got put into this HQ, and honestly, that was the best thing that could have happened. But that's all luck. Like, you don't. That's where the luck part comes in. So if you were unlucky where it's like maybe you needed the right, maybe it's like Jacob, but you didn't have Maddie who's so enthusiastic and who's so great at her job, and it would have been some other schmo who just was barely got asked back to come back and sell books, maybe you wouldn't have done well. You know what I'm saying? And or who knows, right? And a lot of it is also on you that you got put in the right turf? What if you got put in the wrong turf, right? Like all this other shit. Now, oh, go ahead, because my second thought is not really related to this, but it is related, but not to do with this as much.
Yeah, I'll give it short. I was going to say, like, so I won't like argue about that, but I definitely lean more towards in the camp of like you are responsible for your success. There are factors, but what I will say is like I wouldn't say I'm unlucky in this sense, but I think that there are people that are lucky in a sense. So my first summer was Maddie's last summer. And so as soon as she left after my first summer, you know, I was gung-ho to come back. And, you know, I went under Amy, who was a DSL, and she did her best to, you know, lead me, but she was a DSL. You know, she had to lead literally the whole division. And because of that, obviously she didn't have much time for me. On the contrary, like my roommate, Jordan, you know, he's under Emma, and I'll never, you know, shout out Emma Barnett. I'll never stop telling her how amazing she is at how great she is at taking care of her kids. Like she spends so much time pouring into them, caring about their success, holding their hands to do things. And I never had that. You know, it was just me, not just me, but it was mostly me a lot of the time. I didn't have a leader here at UCF that you know, pushed me to do things. It was, you know, so that is one thing that I wish I had on Southwestern, but even though I didn't, I figured it out. And there are other things like that.
I wonder, I'm just going to jump in here real quick. Like the idea of luck, I was thinking about this as y'all were sharing, that I feel like if you're successful your first summer, you got lucky. Like something about where your turf was, what your preparation was, what you were naturally born with, like worked in your favor that summer. If you're successful your second summer, there's still luck, maybe a little bit less luck because still something aligned. Now, by your third, fourth, whatever beyond that summer, I think that is where skill comes in. Because if you're then successful in whatever turf you're put in, if there's change in leadership, if there's like you're now managing, like your role as a human out there has also shifted. If you're still able to succeed with all those shifting variables, I feel like that is where it would be skill, says the girl who didn't sell.
I would disagree.
Me and Andres have feelings.
I would disagree. I don't think that you get lucky. Like the luck factor doesn't necessarily come in like the turf. It can though. Like it for example, it could be that your card just sucks. That's just I think it's not like the level of luck. It's more like the level your lack of luck is just more challenges you have to overcome. So traditionally speaking, the less challenging your summer, the better you ought to be. But some people have no challenges and still suck during the summer, and on the other hand, some people have all of the challenges and do great in the summer. So a lot of it is still up to you. So that's where I would disagree with that.
So maybe it's luck plus your grit or whatever.
There's some sort of formula involved. Yeah,
it's an intersection.
Yeah.
However, you can't say there's no luck involved, because yes, absolutely there is. I mean, it just as little as like the sales school.
Some level of stars have to align.
Yeah,
sure.
Like if your manager is Matt Atchison versus, like you said, some guy who barely wants to come back, you're better off with Matt Atchison there.
Yeah. Also, like, you know, maybe you get paired with a shitty roommate. That sucks too, or your HQ sucks. That's a lot, right? That's life though too, right? Sometimes you're born in Colombia, sometimes you're born in America, right? So it's just that's fine. I will agree though. I think luck is less luck as you go forward because you know what you're getting into now, and so then there's less. What HQ you end up in is a lot more on you by your fourth summer for sure. So yes, at some point it's like you had to be
HQ.
Yeah. So yes to that. What I wanted to draw attention to, something that Jacob started going towards, which was where I was headed, is I think that the way that they manage people after their first summer is backwards. I think it's Mark Rao. Mark Rao has this philosophy of you run with your horses or your lead horses. And so to me, that's always been backwards. If the mission of the company is to build people up and help people succeed and all to learn and grow, then the attention afterwards should always be dedicated towards the people that didn't do as well going forward. That's something that's never been that way. It usually ends up like the DSLs or the upper end people, FSLs, end up hanging out with the sharper first years, and they hang out with the sharper Bs and the sharper Cs because they want to like whatever, train them and develop them. But I'm like, those aren't people that need attention. If you have a first year that sold 6,000 units, they're going to be fine. Like, it's going to be okay. Yeah, you should still develop them. I'm not saying you don't. Kind of like you still develop the other kids. But if you had a first year who was sharp, you were like, this kid's going to do well, or this girl's going to do amazing. And then they go and they sell, 1,000 units. You're like, something didn't click there. They should have. And we should definitely help develop these people. And I never saw that. And to me, that was always like, if you're really working on helping people succeed, and you should definitely help the people that need it most, not the people that obviously are fine. You know what I mean? Ooh, Avery, go ahead.
Okay.
Avery,
Well, no,
I saw every space light up on this one.
Avery, go first.
I'll be quick because I think I'm more so agreeing because the reason I think a lot of how your summer goes has to do with how your school year goes, right? Like where your mindset is all the school year or that time is how your summer goes. And so that makes sense. It's like if there is a, someone who does sell 3, 4, 5, 6,000 units their first summer, there's a reason they sold that. They're going to keep doing that at their best. I will say there is a part of me that agrees with run with your horses and whatever. I'm too agreeable of a person. I probably need to work on that. But so yeah, I think that you're right. I think like life, I just try to agree with everybody, and it's a flaw and a strength.
Everybody's right.
Everybody's
right.
Because if you think you're right, you're right. But if I think I'm right, I'm right. But lifestyle, I think focusing on the people that didn't do as well, lifestyle compared to the book field, like trying to put a schedule to your life compared to putting a schedule to your book field is way more difficult than just, hey, go get your 30 demos today. That's it, right? Monday through Saturday, go do that. So it's like, I agree. I think focusing on your life for the people who maybe didn't do as well, they just need more thinking and decision-making and life help than the other people do. Because they already were doing that before. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Which is that like mentorship training, like that's, I mean, in like Christian world, that's called like being discipled, or, you like have this like small group leader that like comes alongside you and like carries you along and teaches you in this way and in this path. So like, yeah, interesting that isn't always felt for those that maybe underperform or struggle more in the off season or in the on season.
Right.
Yeah. I wouldn't say disagree with others, but I guess play devil's advocate. Like, I can't obviously speak for the whole company, and obviously, like many things, Southwestern, it depends on who you're working with, DSL, wise, whatever. But like I said, for most of my summers, I was one of the low performing of my year. But I never felt like Amy spent more time with anyone else. Honestly, and this is probably not true, but I always felt like I was Amy's favorite. And, wasn't I? Who knows? But the fact that I would feel that way, considering I was one of the lowest performing people, what Amy always told me is, and not just told me, showed me, sent letters to me during the summer that I still have about, is that, it's not, it's seeing people not for who they are, but for who they can become. And I can't speak for the whole company, because the whole company is not good at this, but there are definitely good people that are good at that. And to go on to or just in general with the running the horses thing, I think the ideal scenario, and I don't know if this is the goal with the running the horses thing, I think the ideal scenario is for the top leaders to pour into the higher producing people, but teach them how to pour into the lower producing people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but they don't do that.
Trickle down economics.
They don't.
Yeah, but they don't do that. Yeah.
I think that would be.
They're working on it. They're working on it. I will say
I believe it, and I'm sure this is not like a blanket statement for every manager DSL in the company.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah. I want to say, because like if for example DSLs were to just pour into the lower people, sure, it would bring them up, but then the higher people would do better, but there's no one else for them to help them. But on contrary, and I know they're not doing it the way they should do, is if you pour into the high vertical, there's more people to pour into the lower vertical, not vice versa. Anyway,
Yeah, but the thing is, like, if you have an organization of 100 people, and out of those, it's realistically 10 of them are like top level, 7, 8,000, 10,000 unit producers, right? And then another 20 of them are in the mid fives, and then there's like a whole chunk below 4, right? If you focus on that whole chunk below 4, the rest of them are going to keep producing, but it's the idea that instead of having 10 people do 10,000, you have 30 people doing 10,000. And that's actually kind of what the Europeans do, which also brings me to another thing, which is back to the original question that Amy had, is like, one thing that we do not do well is we are selective, maybe depending on when we're selecting first years, but there's no selectivity when it comes to a manager that wants to come back. It's basically, if you want to do this summer again, come on in. And there are for sure people who you should be like, no, you shouldn't come back.
So is everybody invited back? Like, ooh, I was the first one in my org to be invited back.
But like, first years don't know that.
Yeah. Okay. That's also
and now they do. If you're listening, you're gonna get asked back. Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. So and so money wise, and it just seemed like it was going to be the leads, which I wanted to go back to that because you mentioned this, and that's another thing that maybe Southwestern people don't understand is leads. That's kind of like you're saying, basically, imagine you show up to a town to sell books, you send a postcard out to every single family that has kids in school or young children, asking them if they struggle with any of the following subjects, yes or no. Would you be interested in hearing about a product that might help you with all those subjects, yes or no, name and address, and then you just waited at your HQ for like a couple of weeks, and then you got in the mail like 700 people returning that postcard saying, come to my house, here's where I live. Hi, are you the mom of the house? Yes, and we've heard of you. Great.
Yeah, is this your handwriting, Miss Betty? Yeah, that's my handwriting. Yeah. You got a few minutes? It's, again, you're not selling every single lead that you sit down with, but the leads is kind of what interested me, because that kind of anxiety feeling that I talked about at Southwestern and the anxiety I had with Family Heritage, I honestly didn't think that was going to go away, but it has. It's gone away when I sold. I still had a little bit of anxiety, but after that first knock, it goes away. But much less anxiety every week because I know I have fresh leads coming in. And so even if this day doesn't work out, I know typically our agents will get anywhere from 25 to 50 leads a week of people that they can go and call on.
That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
But that is another thing that does, that's another thing that does vary. I can't speak for it because I'm not in Dynasty, but of all the divisions, it seems like Dynasty is possibly actually selective for student leaders.
Yeah, probably.
And what I will say is, after my first summer, when I wanted to come back, because I didn't initially, but then I did, and I was sitting in Amy's office. Again, if we're talking about being selective for student leaders, maybe the 600 unit rookie who wasn't sure about coming back until the very last minute isn't your top pick. But Amy did have me earn my spot back. Now, whether I actually earned it back or not, I still don't know to this day. But she told me, like, Jacob, you have to prove yourself during the school year to have a spot back for a second summer. Now, if I didn't, would she let me come out? I don't know. But the point is, I did work really hard that school year, both in recruiting and school and life, and I earned my spot back. And so even if it was a decoy, it was a tool that was used and worked to help me improve myself that school year.
Yeah, but you see, you're not who I'm talking about. Like I'm talking about like a couple of things. Who was the person that we just recorded with who had Virgie? Who Virgie was like, go sell for a week, and if you can do it for a week and sell, 200 units for the week, then you can come back. And then they were like,
yeah, Virgie
halfway-
is savage like that.
Virgie's a beast. That's the best thing you could do. Is if you didn't sell 1,000 units, you should go sell for 1 week. And if you can double your summer in 2 weeks, then you can come back. Or if you can match your summer in 2 weeks, you can come back or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like for Jacob, it should have been like, okay, if you can sell 600 units over the next 2 weeks, you come back.
Wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. That's just, but here's the deal. You're not even particularly who I'm talking about. Like, I think that was a good way for you to earn it. I'm talking about there's people who we all know who I'm talking about. You're thinking of the person right now where you were like, they should not have come back. No fucking way they should have came back, especially after the third, especially after the fourth. Like every summer that went on, it was even more like you're actually a burden to the culture of what we're trying to build
not
here.
Producing well, or they have a bad attitude, or they're just
some of it,
human.
they're all
just
of it.
I mean, they're not like a
it.
terrible human,
No,
obviously.
yeah,
I think,
no.
But they're just.
They're not helping.
Anybody listening who's recruited people knows the person I'm talking about. And this is not everybody. This is, again, it's the bell curve. So out of the 100 kids that are coming back, one of them, this might be just one kid, but that kid comes back and it's hard for everybody. It's hard for the culture. It's hard for the production. It's hard for the overall like vision of the group, and they bring them back and they shouldn't.
Yeah. Like as an example of someone he's not talking about, a great example is Alex Soto.
Yeah.
Alex did not have a good first summer. And then for the next 6 summers, did not produce well for his year. But for all those years, he brought so much life and positivity to Eagle Bliss and the company.
Yeah, you keep that person. 100%.
No, yeah. This is who you're not talking about. Yes, he didn't sell a lot of books, but he made great jokes. He was a great leader, great PCs, great at so many things. And then 8th summer popped off, sold a lot of books, and then peaced out. So it's like, that's it. Like the whole not selling a lot of books over years is not what he's talking about. He's talking about someone who is not bringing anything.
It's a detriment to the organization.
And
it's actually taking away.
And also isn't improving on their own.
Yeah. A fun sucker and a bad producer.
Yeah, and or like there was the people who were borderline, like they shouldn't have come out, and then they were just not with it. They were just not sharp. I'm sorry. Like you at the end of the day, so those kids, I'm not talking about any of those kids. Like those kids should totally not come back. The kids that do come back, like the Jacobs or the Alex Sotos, those are the kids that should have been hanging out with the DSMs every time they come in. Those are the kids that should be hanging out with Dan Moore every time they come in, because it doesn't do Danny any good, who just sold 9,000 units last summer, to hang out with Mark Ralph for an hour. Like that's a waste of both of their times.
But, and this is devil's advocate again, those kids still deserve the attention. Here's why. Again, I'll talk about Jordan, even though he's annoying and he has a huge ego. My roommate Jordan, who I'm very, very, very close with, he was a top first year, sold whatever he sold, 3,000, 3,500 units first summer, right?
Loser. Just kidding.
Let's say he was left alone to his own devices to improve. He would have done nothing. I know him. He would have done nothing the whole school year. But that's not what happened. People poured into him. He had great PCs, blah, 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 blah. And this summer he sold like 8,000. And if he didn't get the attention, maybe he did get more because the top first year, whatever. But if he didn't get the attention he deserved, just because he is a B coming back, he would not have grown that much, both personally and unit wise.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying, but that's like what could have happened instead is he sells 6,000 and he figures it out on his own instead of 8. But then the first years that each hit 1,000, all 5 of them then sell 4 or 5 as well, and now your org is doing bananas. And that's how it should work, because just because he deserves that doesn't mean he needs it. There's kids who need it, and if your mission, and I go back to this whole, because every time I've talked with Danny about this a lot, but if your mission is to be the best organization in the world at developing the habits and skills for young people in life, then you're not doing anybody any good to give Jordan more time than everybody else who definitely needed it.
I don't think he should get more time, but I also don't think he should get less time because he's producing more.
No, I agree. I'm not saying they don't get any. I at the beginning,
Well, because,
I don't think they should get any. But but they right now they totally get way more. Right now, for sure, they get way more. It's so bad.
Okay, but here's the thing I'm saying. Let's say you took the time out of those top producers. Let's say there's 5 of them. You took out some time and you divided it amongst, the 50 or whatever, 20, 10. Like, however you divide it, you're going to be taking more from those people than you're giving to everyone else. So again, I don't know if this is possible, but what was ideal is rather to give the same amount of time or even more time to the top producers, but in a lot of that time, teach them, because then they could use their time to pour into the rest. Because if you only have the DSLs pour into everyone, however you divide it up, someone's getting screwed over every way.
No, that's fair. I don't disagree.
And the mission statement,
economic theories, like you only have so many resources. Who are you going to give it to do the most good? You, Andres, econ major. This is right up your alley.
Yeah. No. It's literally like you said. It's like trickle down economics. We can get to the next question, but like just closing. Just closing thoughts. Okay. Just closing thoughts is just more like right now the discrepancy is too big for it to be positive. It is how it is.
Go a long time talking about that. So
it's leadership philosophies. It's leadership philosophy.
Yeah. Okay, I have the next question for Amy. So I assume you know what this stands for, but if you don't, I also want to hear what you stand for. How would you describe HBHing?
Ooh, yes. This one I truly learned from.
And I have a good story about this too.
Awesome. So. This is HBH means home but hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And it's when clearly someone is home and you knock on their door, ring their doorbell, and they just choose to pretend you don't exist.
It's like
I don't know if that's like they're like
ghosting.
hunched down behind a window kind of thing, or if they just continue to go about their day in their house.
Sometimes they're just in their
like
freaking
move around. They're like, oh, we're just
the kids are out the window. Like the kids are
like, Mom, someone's here. We're not gonna
answer. They like the kids instantly like go away because they're being yelled at. You're like, okay, it's awesome.
So what
see you guys later.
I want to hear.
I know, Jacob, what's your HBH?
I want to hear, but I got an HBH story that's not mine. It's Manny Medina's, and I don't think he told it on his episode, so I'm gonna tell it now because it's too fucking good. But go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I could talk about HBH for a long time, but it's not really a story, but a thing I started doing. So my first summer, no one taught me what it was, so I was just in, naive first year. I was just in denial that it existed. So I would knock on doors, no one would answer, clearly home looking back, and I'd be like, oh, guess they're not home, even though there's 2 cars in an open garage. And I would go back multiple times, being like, huh, weird, I guess they're just at a friend's house with no cars. Anyway, whatever. But eventually, once I caught on, I always found the concept of it to be very negative. Like to assume someone is ignoring your presence because they don't want to talk to you. So what I started doing, I swapped out the initialism acronym, HBH, and I changed it to FNSing.
FNSing?
Yes, F and S. And so what that stands for is fucking and shitting. And so
they're just otherwise occupied.
I trained my brain, and I was like, I would knock on a door. They're clearly home to an answer. I'm like, oh, I guess they're taking a poop, or they're just banging uglies, something. Because otherwise, there's no reason they wouldn't come to the door. And so I just train.
They know who I am.
Yeah, like why? The only reason they're not coming to the door is because they're mid-sex or mid-poop. No other reason.
I agree. I love
That's so funny.
FNSing everyone. FNSing. If you're listening and you're selling books, they're not HBH. They're FNS.
Yeah.
All right.
Way more positive.
This is probably the funniest HBH story I've ever heard. And I'm sorry, Manny, that I'm telling you a story that where you should be. Well, you'll tell it to us some other time again. But Manny Medina, my dear Manny, his first summer, he's knocking on some doors. He's going about his day. If I remember correctly, this might be not accurate, but at some point he got the sense that there was some PR stuff going on, like some shit going on, maybe something on Facebook. And he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to keep going to the next door. And he sees this house. He's like, it's starting to get dark. People are starting to kind of hostile with him. So he's like, I'm only going to go to houses that are like, it's like 6 o'clock. You know, it's just kind of getting dark at 6 o'clock at some points in the summer. And he's like, okay, I'm just going to go to houses that are completely lit up where they're obviously home. And so he goes to this house. It's a bigger break in Massachusetts. He knocks on the door. And as he's kind of waiting, it literally, the way he describes it, it's like an EMP. Do you guys know what an EMP is? Electromagnetic pulse, which is where like it shut. An EMP is like an atomic bomb without the bomb. It just shuts down all electronics. It's a weapon. It's a type of weaponry. And so
they had one. He might have actually 11, right?
Yes, yes,
that's how they did the thing. Okay.
Yeah, he might have told it. He might have told this story in this episode, but this is worth retelling. So he knocks on the door. Everything's lit up, and all of a sudden, and everything in the house shuts down. Like it all goes dark, and he goes, "That's not good." So he's like HBH. So he goes back to his car, and he's like kind of shaken up. Goes to another house, and I think someone yells at him. And at one point, he just like decides, okay, I need to like just take a minute because people are. It's at this point, it's almost like dangerous that he goes to the door because that's kind of how PR can get away from you, is if people think you're like stealing children or being a thief. And so he like pulls over and he's like kind of just collecting his shit. He says he's waiting for like 20-30 minutes, and then all of a sudden someone knocks on his car window, and he's like,
freak out.
What the fuck? It's two people. There's a guy with a microphone and a guy with a camera, and it's a news crew.
Oh my gosh!
I'm pretty sure he did tell this story.
And he's like, "Can I help you?" He goes, "Are you the bookman?" And he's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Can we ask you a couple questions? We're with the news station, with the TV station in the news." And so he's like, "Fuck it, all right." So he starts getting asked what he's doing. Because he's like, the person they saw the car pulled over. It was a Nebraska plate. Somebody heard that this guy who's maybe stealing children or whatever the hell was a PR problem was going around. And so they found him with the Nebraska plates, knocked on his. So he's like, fuck it. I'm going to use this opportunity to just like explain what I'm doing so people can like lay off. And so he's, they started, I was like, what are you? He's like, look, I'm selling books. And he's like, kind of like with sass, telling and answering like, and so, and I'm pretty sure you could find the interview because he showed it to me later when it came out on the news. But it ended up being okay. But I just thought it was hilarious that the news.
Yeah.
I don't have that good of a news story, but I did once get interviewed. This guy Facebook messaged me. He said, "Hey, I have like a blog or whatever. Can I interview about what you're doing?" Because I had bad PR too. And same thing. Like he called me. He recorded the call. This is my first summer, so I didn't know anything. And he just like asked me questions like about how much I work. I'm like, I work 80 hours, paid for school, or like like all these just like questions, and it was so funny. Like literally interviewed, and he posted it, and people watched it.
It's great. HBHers. Great question, Jacob. Great.
Yeah.
Great question. Amy, do you have another question for the book folks? Otherwise, Avery can ask you another question.
I'll let Avery go. I don't have a burning one quite yet.
Oh gosh. A question for Amy. I'm looking at some of the stuff I wrote, and I'm like, delivery week.
Oh, yes.
Yes. What do you think this looks like?
Like utter chaos.
Yeah.
For some people, and for most people, yes.
Yeah.
Well, like, okay, in theory, it's like, oh no, you just like stop back by, you like sent them a postcard or whatever. They should expect that you're there, and you drop off their books, and they give you some money if they still owe you, and it's like this happy and then they give you some food, and you're on your merry way. I feel like that happens maybe like 1% of the time, because also like you got to catch people when they're home, and a lot of people aren't home during 8 to 5. And so you're just trying to cram all of your whole summer's deliveries into evenings and maybe 2 weekends. I don't know. I'm probably on Sunday. I don't know. You gotta like cram it in. And people are probably kind of nasty because crap, you like fulfilled on your promise and you deliver the books. Now they got to give you the money that they might have forgotten about. I don't remember. It's been on a few episodes, but just like how heavy the books are that you have to deliver. And Andres, I know you have mentioned this before of like the 5'1", barely 100-pound woman who can deliver these books.
How are
Like,
they doing it?
wow.
Yeah, and this
I've
is
been,
not to
like,
sound
moving
condescending.
furniture around, and I
not to
like-
sound
Not at all.
condescending.
No,
I
but
can
like
barely carry
that's
it.
like
I
That
don't
bin
carry
is
it.
like
Heavy.
3/4 my weight, and I am not a strong woman.
How did you
I
do
don't
it?
know.
How?
but
Oh,
yeah,
I don't
Avery,
carry the
how'd you
bag.
do it?
How do you
Oh
carry
my
it?
gosh.
Carry the
Three,
bag
two,
to the door.
one. How'd you do it? That's
So
a thing y'all
hard.
say.
So first of all, I just want to
It's
give
1,
a
2,
shout out
3.
to all.
Oh.
1, 2, 3. How'd you do? I just want to make sure I give a shout out to all the dads that helped me carry it back to my car because I can't. So my first
Didn't
couple
buy it.
makes
summers-
sense.
So this is
half
gonna
the
be
time you're not even carrying it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so
On
if
the
they're really
return
If
trip.
you
if
do
there
it
was,
right half the time.
if there
you're
was
not
like,
carrying.
if you're nice to them and not too nice to them. So half the time, Chad's carry it back. You can be nice.
The fine line.
I'm a nice person, but I will not be too nice to people I don't want to be too nice to. Anyway, that fun box. So called the fun box, right?
Fun box.
Clear tote. So many freaking books. So my first couple summers, I actually got so many bruises on my arms that moms would be concerned. Like they'd be like,
Like
"Are
that
you
you're a
okay?"
heroin
Like,
addict.
no, it would be right
Oh.
here. Like there was moms that thought that it was like no, even worse. Like people grabbing
Hurting
you
yourself?
type of- no, not
Oh,
other
Yeah.
people. Like moms were like, well, especially since I'm out from North Dakota in freaking New York by myself. Like, so anyway, I started taking iron pills. But man, so I put the fun box in my back seat, and so what I would do is open my back door, put my right arm over the top of it and like around the corner of it, and then take my left arm and go underneath it. And just like do like a weird wrap. Oh my gosh. And then my leg, I had to keep using my leg ever so often to push it back up.
the leg
and,
is key.
I had to
Because
use
the
leg's
stretch
idea is you
because my
take in
hands-
more books. The idea is you take in more books than
yeah.
what they bought so that you can
They
tack
say
on
to
more.
take in everything.
The whole set.
Every-
They
Yeah, you
say to
take the whole
bring
thing.
the bag, which is a lot.
Oh.
I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I didn't carry enough to tack on. Keep your money. I'm not carrying on the bags every door.
Who was it, Andres, who they tacked on nearly half of their whole summer sales?
Harrison.
Harrison
Yeah,
Knowles,
Harrison
the
that was
master.
wild.
First person to hit. He has the record for most tack-ons.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
wrote a manual about it.
I'm trying to find how much these books weigh. Like just the Ask Me's, a set of 12 Ask Me's,
I mean,
right here weighs 12 pounds.
I could handle
Just the
like
Ask Me's.
4.
It's 6 of these,
Wow.
a
So that's what it
CEA, a set of 8
Ask Me's.
FPLs. Yeah, 14 Ask Me's, 4 colors, words, number, shapes, 2 My Phone with Words, 6 Explore and Learns, a cookbook, an atlas.
I'm 5'5.5", and that sounds like that would be as tall
The-
as me.
And
It
you stack
fills
on
the
top
bin.
of each other. The bin.
It fills the
that's on
tote.
top of it.
Damn.
I'm gonna be
okay.
honest. I never actually took everything in. I just bought slicks after.
I
would
did
just,
Okay,
like,
so-
fold
If
and
I
then-
genuinely thought that they could use everything, I would, but I'd only bring in what I was going to sell them.
Good job.
I mean,
Okay,
work
so
smarter,
each-
not harder.
Each black book, the topic source was 6.7 pounds.
Is it listed on
I've
Amazon?
never actually weighed that. That's gonna be
I'm
fun
lo-
to know.
I'm looking at
It's
it
70
on
pounds.
Amazon. I'm looking
I
at it
really
on
think
Amazon.
it's like
Each
70
6
pounds.
Each other
This could
black
be
book
6
weighed
pounds.
Yeah, each other black book weighed 5. So just the black book set is anywhere from 30 to 35 pounds. A set of 14 Aspies is another 12. So you're looking all right there. You're already at like 50 pounds.
Oh my gosh,
Already.
you can't.
And that's-
eating
and that's like a third of it.
Yeah, and that's a third
that's
of it.
why it sucks because
Explorer learners is probably also like 12.
Each Explorer and Learn,
Another,
this
like-
is just a
it's a
6
lot of books. I
volumes.
don't think we need to really. Do we want to know?
Yeah.
how much
I
it's
know.
about?
Like we
Yeah,
can post
yeah,
about
it's a
the
lot of
math
books.
later. But
It weighs a
dang.
lot.
It's a lot of books. That's why delivery week sucks because you are like the job already is like it's not that physical of a job. I mean, yes, you jog to
Most of the
doors.
time.
For my conscience, I walked to doors. I ran my first couple of summers because I was like habit, speed, ability.
Oh my
good,
God.
like, that I did
Avery, you and me, brother.
that.
When I saw someone who sells a lot of books walk to a door, I was like, this whole time I could have been walking and selling a lot of
Been
books.
walking.
And then I started
Yeah.
walking and I started selling a lot of books. Isn't that crazy?
But the physicality of delivery week is so much more than the other 10 11 weeks of the summer because
Yeah.
you are also like carrying and sleeping
all
less.
day.
Mhm.
So I was gonna say
But
that's something
later,
that Amy
not healthy.
didn't get to mention yet. The thing that you totally so the part that you got right was you're going all day, right?
Yeah.
And you schedule it so all the babies, so all the stay-at-home moms that you remember, you schedule them throughout the day so they are home. So it's not as bad as that. The where you get tired, where when you get tired is besides what we've already explained, is that you got to go deliver till like 10 o'clock and then you're not done with the day.
Mm-mm.
Oh, no. You got to do your very fucking infamous book counts, which sucks because you got to go back to a storage unit where you have the books that is nowhere near your HQ. Hopefully it is, but it's usually never because you found the cheapest one. You got to get it back there. You got to figure out what you didn't deliver, right? Count them. Hopefully that's correct. It used to be we used to do this on paper. Now it's on the iPads, which is even easier. And
Which
then
is
you
like-
have to count the books, and then you got to physically go to your garage and be like, okay, so I should have 60 math sets, and then you count and you have 58.
And then
you're like,
carry
why?
all the books you need to deliver tomorrow back into your
Back.
car.
Well, no. Well, first you got to do the book set, and then you got to go find all the 2 maths that are missing because fuck.
And where
takes
they
you 30
are, go
minutes.
back
That's
to your
like-
notes,
that's
go through your delivery.
$400 you're missing.
And then you
Okay.
find it, and then you got to load up your car for the next day, and it's 2 in the morning.
I have already
I
so
have-
many ideas on how I would do that and make it super efficient. But I
There
can
are
see how you could
It
bungle
can
it
be,
your first year.
Especially your
Sorry,
first
Jake.
summer.
It can be. First
Yeah.
summer.
There's no way to teach that because you're already so overwhelmed. It's like
Mhm.
I can't teach you how to use Sales Rabbit and how to keep a good system because you still don't know how to approach a door. So let's just worry about that later.
Also, the
Yeah.
first year didn't know what the fuck that he was doing or she was doing the first 3 weeks, and so like some records are off for some reason.
Oh yeah.
I didn't have a map, so I was just going.
And so your second summer, you're like, I'm not gonna be that again. I'm gonna do it right this time. And still, and the 3 weeks of B summer, you're like, fuck, how is it still up?
Oh gosh.
Sorry,
So-
that was loud.
Yeah.
No,
That
Two
is
things.
so. Yeah.
So I'm sure Andres and Avery cannot say the same. Most people can't. My 4 summers, I had a perfect book count when I got back to
That's-
check-in.
What?
That's a record. That's
Wow.
unheard of.
You hear
That's
that?
why he got to come back.
182, 182 episodes, unheard of.
You hear the amazement in their voice. That's an accomplishment. Second thing, great story, real quick. So my 3rd summer, and Andres, also a fun fact, 3 out of my 4 summers, my storage unit was in my HQ.
Wow.
That's fun.
That's luck. That's
I only
luck.
had that once. Yeah.
The,
I
the
had
luck didn't help most summers. Though. Don't forget.
But that,
But
to that
but
point.
great story.
That up
So
to luck.
my 3rd summer, and we can use to transition into host families because I love talking about host families. My 3rd summer, I lived with Mr. and Mrs. Wonderful. They were fantastic. I can go on for a very long time how great they were. But one quick story about them. During deliveries, 3rd summer, I started to sell a few books by this point, and it's middle of the week. It's me, Devin Pewsley, and a first year living together. And like Andre said, it's been a long day. You know, we've all delivered for 14, 15 hours. We got home. We just did our book count, just finally finished loading our books up. And easily 1 a.m. by now.
Yeah. It's
And our HQ dad, Mr. Wonderful, who is, I could be so off, but he's got to be in his 60s, 70s, retired. He looks at his wife and he says, go run to the gas station and get some buns. I'm going to cook some burgers for the boys.
Oh,
And this
at
man,
1 a.m.
at 1 a.m, and this man is not your regular run-of-the-mill cook.
Wow.
This man could put Gordon Ramsay in his place with his baked beans. And Devin, if you're listening, you know about them baked beans. And he makes these burgers, not your regular burgers. He puts cheese in the patty, toasted buns. And we, like, I'm almost going to cry thinking about it. Like, it was one of the nicest things I've ever experienced it.
oh my God.
Yeah, at 1 a.m, makes these amazing burgers that we eat before going to bed for one of our last days at liveries. And it's just like that's why we do it, you know? It's for moments like this. We do this crazy fucking job. And again, I could go on for a very long time about this HQ and all my HQs, but
That's pretty
I think-
nice.
Another thing that I have noticed, and I think this is part of the culture of Southwestern, of always like looking for the positive and like 3 things that you're thankful for, but the ability through all of the garbage that's thrown at you throughout the summer, there's so many stories about the goodness of people and how like the small things like totally revolutionize your day. And I love that, being someone who's like gets to sit on the podcast, and I'm often on the back end of things and like taking notes and listening and stuff. But I often get really moved by remembering that there are just really beautiful people out there that choose
oh my God.
to go out of their way to make a burger for a couple of guys in the middle of the night because they're exhausted. And like how much that reminds me that it really is the small things that I can do in my day that can make someone's life a little bit easier, better, nicer. And I love that.
Yeah. I'm sure we could all go on for hours about good people stories. Well, I guess speaking of good people, I have a question for Amy. I would love to hear about what you think it looks like when we find a place to live. And then we can talk about host families for a little.
Like, for real, this is probably the thing about selling books that might give me the most anxiety, of thinking that, and I am not alone in this, I am sure, especially as a female, go find a place to live and hope they're not super sketchy people. I think there's like three methodologies that I've heard of thus far. 1, it's already taken care of for you. And I don't know who does that and who figures it out for you, but like, you just already know where you're going to live, and you go meet the people and you sleep in their spare bedroom, and huzzah, what a day. The next one is you just start knocking on doors and you hope you find a place to sleep that night. And I don't know if it's part of your approach.
What do you think we say? I would love to hear how we approach that.
Oh man, on Avery and Andres' episode, they kind of ran through the sales talk, which was fun because I don't think I'd ever actually heard a good portion of it.
What do you think we say to find somewhere to live?
It's got to be smooth, and it is unlike what I would probably come up with by myself, because I would say like, I wouldn't say it because I would just be so overwhelmed. I would like pay to live in a hotel all summer, which is not right. Like, hey, so I'm here and I'm doing this program, and turns out like I don't have a place to stay. Do you know anybody that has a place that, like, you ask for the referral for it? You don't say like, damn, your house, can I stay here?
You're spot on with that, Amy.
So there's like the door method.
Spot on.
And then there's the announcement at church method. And you hope some grandma who's super nice. And Andres, I think you've told me of your go to church. Mm-hmm. Like, everybody goes to a different church that morning, and you hope one of the 4 comes up with a place to stay. Yeah, like, those people are incredible, especially those that just like on the spot offer you a place to sleep for 12, 14 weeks. and
Yeah,
a bathroom
we
to use,
got a
whether or
room.
not they have a
Bring your
bed or
stuff
not.
in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Crazy.
especially,
Why not?
and like those that have kids, those that have little girls, like you're bringing randos into your house, and you
Randos.
just hope they aren't serial killers.
They're not serial killers.
My parents hosted.
My-
That was an interesting.
Blows
did?
me away.
Yeah.
My mom hosted.
Avery,
My
did
mom
your
hosted
parents
every
host
summer.
before you sold or after you
No,
sold?
after I sold.
Okay, after they knew it wasn't
After-
sketch.
yeah, they knew about it. They said no at first, to
I'm-
hosting, and then they said yes. But
I'm just blown away that those people exist. That host
Yeah.
families exist to this day blows me away.
Like proof of a higher power in this universe.
yeah,
Oh,
Because
yeah.
those families exist.
Yeah, my mom.
Those are
My mom,
not just people.
Yeah.
my mom has hosted every summer since Danny's first, so my second. Because and
Wow.
her philosophy was that she's like, I'll open my door for anybody, is because I hope it pays it forward, and somebody will open the door for my boys. So
And your
that
mom
was, like,
had
my
a
thing.
culture of opening her home for many years before
Right.
y'all ever sold books. That was really ingrained in her DNA.
Yeah, but my mom, she
Yeah,
hosts, and she has a whole
yeah,
system now. It's so funny. It like there's like
Love that.
like rules. One of them's like no porno. It like so it's like she's like it's really funny.
He's like, I'm
Um,
also going to help you become better. You can't do these things now. No.
Yeah. But the thing is, and I want to know the story, is usually laws are created, whether it's in government or at an HQ, laws are created because somebody broke it when it
Yeah.
wasn't a rule.
Mm,
And so then it was
Somebody did a
like,
thing.
now we have to make this a rule. Like,
like
you know what I'm
example,
saying?
I bet my first host mom ever hosted again, because I didn't mention this on my podcast. She'd mention nobody can get lice.
Yeah. Yep. There
Jason,
you
you got
go.
lice.
I got lice
There
my
you go.
first summer. My whole HQ got lice our first summer, and that was like just treacherous.
Hot.
She was like, "How do I?"
Do you guys
Yeah.
Unlucky.
do you guys have any either good HU stories or just like good HQ situations that stand out?
Oh, dude.
Mm.
Boy.
Maybe that you
Third summer.
haven't told on the podcast yet?
Yeah, I think so. I don't really talk about, I mean, unless it's prompted or someone asks me directly, I don't talk about my experience.
Give it up. Give it up.
Now's your chance.
So my third summer did not have an HQ set up until week 5. So I was knocking, and throughout the day, because you know how when you're selling, there's always one family that goes, so where do you live? And you're like, you know,
Funny you ask.
the Johnsons, the Millers or whatever, right?
Yeah.
This
Yeah,
summer
that
for
was
me, I
great.
was like, really interesting. You should ask. So nowhere. We have no place to live. And so
Where did you stay for 5 weeks?
They
some
put us
customers
up-
would let me stay for 3 days. No, well, we got put up. We were supposed to get put up for a hotel. I never once in my entire summer ever stayed at a hotel. That
Okay.
summer,
Like,
Amy,
does Southwestern
mo-
at some point like step in and like
Yeah,
pay?
Amy.
Okay.
For most
they
of
take
my
it out
summers,
of your account.
they do not. For most of my summers, I did not have HU set up immediately, and I did have to stay in a hotel for the first few nights. And Amy at Southwestern covered mine at least. And my second summer, for example, they put us up in an Airbnb for a short-term solution until we find somewhere. So
5
we're never
weeks is a
homeless.
long time.
5
I mean,
weeks
for-
is
After summer,
abnormal.
kind of.
And it's
5
not like you're
weeks
saying
is
that
abnormal.
you don't stay at the Hilton.
No.
I imagine
No,
a
no, no.
Super 8. Low
I-
expenses,
That's
right?
it's how you get
My
lice.
second
Yeah.
my second summer, I was a B. I was living with a D. Will not name him, and a first year, and he was in charge of finding where to live, and he put us in a motel that 100% hosted both prostitutes and drug dealers
It was a
simultaneously.
pay by the hour.
An unsafe type of.
Yeah.
Pay by the
Um,
hour? I've never even heard that term.
And I was like, you know, me being a B, ready for my second summer, like, oh, this is awesome. Adversity. We're gonna sell so many books because adversity. In reality, it was scaring the shit out of this poor first year who already went off to a good start. But anyway, Andres, continue.
No, yeah. So it was. I mean, it became a thing where, you know, the people were like, oh, you can sit here for a couple of days, and I'm like, are you sure? I got 2 other guys with me, and they're like, yeah, sure. So we would stay, which was clutch during deliveries, because then I could like store, like, sometimes because what happens is I would have HQs in different places, and so my customers were a little bit more spread out because it was a different place where we'd go in the morning, and so then it was like deliveries. But I was able to like crash with them like sometimes at night on the way to that section of turf that I had. So that was fun. I've talked about my first summer, how we found that on the show before, and I know I've talked about my second summer plenty of times with the crickets and the 3 girls that were dysfunctional family. But I haven't got a chance.
Yeah,
I haven't got a chance to talk much about Lisa Christensen, who, bless her soul. How are you, Lisa? I hope you're listening. This lady actually also hosted Martine Cow a couple summers later in Allentown, near Allentown,
What
in
state?
Emmaus, Pennsylvania. It was the town. That was actually, she was the place I ended up landing at my third summer. When I say it was 5 weeks, we ended up at her HQ because the first years that were there quit, and so we were like, we got an HQ, so we just ended up there. That's how we ended up doing it.
I guess that's a strategy. You just wait.
Yeah,
for
it's just
wait
till first years to quit. Yeah. That summer I was in the hospital. That summer I was off schedule. Was the World Cup in 2014 when Messi lost. But Lisa says she had been hosting for years. Her and her husband Neil had been hosting for years, and she's like, I have never seen anybody go through as much stuff as you have had to go through, and it's bananas. What was cool about her, though,
saying a lot.
Yeah, which is saying a lot because she's seen a lot. And then she said I was her favorite bookman. Danny's met her before. We had dinner at her house on the way back after our 4th summer. And she said that Martine Cow and I are now tied for her 2 favorite bookmen she can ever tie.
Pretty great.
But Martine is great. So honestly, that's an honor to me. I feel that's more of a compliment to me and maybe an insult to him. But what was cool about Lisa is she's plant-based diet. It was the first time I'd ever heard about it. And so she was studying to become like a professional plant-based diet chef and whatever. So oftentimes she would be like, oh, I got to try this recipe today. And she would make like a batch, and then she would have leftovers because she couldn't eat it all. So every time I came home, it'd be like, hey, today I got to make this quiche out of like banana leaves or whatever the fuck. And then we'd like eat that. And it was so good every time. Honestly, phenomenal situation. Everything was set up. She had it all because she knew the system. She knew what we did. She knew when we left in the morning. She knew when we came home at night. She was down. And she like got it. And so
didn't she kind of call you out one time when you were home and off schedule? And she's like, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be on the book field?
No, it was somebody else that came home early. She's like, no, you can't be here and leave. The only time I was ever home, I never went back to HQ. I could have been off schedule, but I was never. Though, although there was one time,
the movies is fine, but God forbid you go back to the HQ.
No, because you want to know. I've actually had this thought. I don't want to see a first year there if I accidentally go there. I don't want to. You don't want to know.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah. It wasn't for an integrity. There was no integrity purpose. It was just that was exactly right.
I got a story about that.
However, there was a time where that did happen, Amy, to answer your question, because I came home because my car would not start, and the only way the tow truck would get it back home was to like do it before a certain time. And so it was like 8:35 and I knock and I'm like, Lisa, and she goes, it's 9 o'clock. And I'm like, and I looked, pointed at my car is just like what's left of it is trying to be just get offloaded. And I'm like, she goes, oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's understandable.
That's good enough.
Yeah. Anyway, great. Shout out to Lisa Christensen.
Yeah.
You're the real OG.
I just thought of a good story. I'll just run through my HQs real quick. First one was pretty standard. I mean, great grandma, Miss Lynn, love her. Second summer, I had about 7 HQs total, including hotels. So not the best.
You went for the variety pack that summer.
Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah. If we're talking about luck, that summer was not it. HQ wise.
One for every book in the reptile set. Let's go.
Yeah.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. That's okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but it's because I've been in the insurance industry before. For people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
The way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years. But they don't care about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Hello, off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
But the two main HQs, one of them was actually the house of another book guy. While he was out selling, we lived in his house. So that was pretty sweet. It was me, Ian Brown, and two first years. But this was in Kansas. And Andres, I know you know the layout of Kansas somewhat well. So I was living in Salina for selling in Salina for most of the summer. And then my last 3 weeks, I was selling in the suburbs of Kansas City.
That is not close.
And now the HQ in Kansas City was incredible. It was a mansion in the suburbs of Kansas City owned by a 6-summer book guy who has a tech company, and he had a smart home with an in-home theater. So everything was controlled by Google, and it was just student leaders in the HQ. So it was 4 of us, no first years.
Nice.
So quick funny story in that HQ. So it was me, 2 guys, and a girl. And me and one of the guys slept in one room, and the girl and the guy slept in the other room. And one of the guys was Furhan, who is a very good friend of mine. We are very close selling together. And every single morning, me and Furhan would race to the shower. And it was only one of us that would get there first. The other 2 student leaders were only really getting there fast. And some days I would win, some days he would win. And so one morning, just another regular morning, alarm goes off. I jump out of bed. I start screaming as you do, and I sprint to the shower. And I get in the bathroom, and Furhan's not there. And I'm like I'm about in the shower, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. And I'm like, hello? And I'm like, what time is it? And our other roommate, Tyler, comes out the door. He's like, Jacob, it's 3 a.m. Go back to bed. I had dreamt the alarm clock, and I got up early. But that was cool.
I did that in high school once, and I was like getting in the shower at 10 p.m. at night, and my dad is like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "It's time for school." You're like,
I'm late. Like,
I know.
Yeah.
It's like,
so
why are all
weird.
the clocks wrong?
It's so weird how our body is.
Yes.
And then my last 2 HQs were incredible. So the third summer HQ was Mr. and Mr. Wonderful, and their daughter sold books. They were amazing. Again, mansion in the suburbs of Wisconsin. We had a basement to ourselves, but it was not a regular basement. It was like decked out with like carpet, pool table, flat screen TV, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms in the basement, just for us. Yeah. They had a fridge stocked for us the whole summer that was just filled with soda, Gatorade, and water just for us.
They stocked it for you?
Stocked it. And
bullshit.
they cooked us a full feast every Sunday. So like, yeah, like the whole thing, ham, beef, like everything, every
Boo.
Sunday. And then
I hate your success and luck.
I know, it's, yeah. And like, he was known for having top first years. Like Maria Serralde, she was number 5 her first summer. She lived there. My roommate Justin, who was the first year, he lived there. He was a very top first year. Like, he was known for having top first years in HQ. Anyway,
shocker.
I know, right? And then this past summer, also, Amy, speaking of ways they get HQs, this summer we utilize Mennonites a lot, and we should do them more. My entire org, we all live with Mennonites, and we basically had a little like cabin, like a guest house to ourselves. It was
Like
6 guys.
everyone had a cabin.
No. My HQ.
Okay.
We lived
Just
with a
y'all
family
had this cabin. Okay.
Yes, who had a guest house, 6 guys. Super cool family. But the cool part is that they owned this like giant country store. It was next to their house. And like Andre said, a lot of times you'll ask, "Oh, where are you staying?" And I love people ask that, because I was like, "Oh, do you know the big country store, the Weavers?" And they're like, "Yeah, we go there all the time." And I'm like, "I'm living with them." And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool."
Trustworthy? Come on in.
Yeah.
That's good for your PR. That's so good for the PR.
Great.
Yeah.
And even better when you're selling to Mennonites.
Mhm.
Because
You're
all you
within
gotta
the
do is
community.
you sit down. They're like, "Who's this English guy?"
Non-Mennonite.
And
yeah, English.
yes, Amy still has to do the translation. Even though
I know.
text.
I'm not like clicking the buttons. But I could.
And yeah, I'm like, "Oh yeah, do you know the Weavers?" Like, "Oh yeah, we love them Weavers." I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
well, I'm living with them." And they're like, "Oh, well, don't you know? That sounds great." And so yeah, that's my HQs.
Bro,
That's
great
amazing.
work. Avery, what do you got? What was your favorite? Like, what was like good
Yeah.
HQs?
I have a ton, but the one that I wanted to make sure I gave a huge shout out to was Misty and Brad this past summer, and also Lindsay. Lindsay was awesome. So I lived in Kentucky for the first 10 weeks, and then in Indiana the last 3 technically, 3 or 2, I don't know. And Misty and Brad, I think, so I hit I Want to Win when I was living with them. They were just like literally angels of God on this earth, like just such like. So I remember calling, because it was a small town. It was small town Indiana, like Santa Claus, Indiana. The town. I don't even think I talked about Santa Claus, Indiana on my podcast.
I did, because I looked it up behind the scenes on the map.
It's a real thing. Yeah.
Wild.
Yeah,
So
we looked it up. That was crazy.
Brad, there's like there's Christmas Lake or whatever, something Christmas Lake.
It looks
So
like
I lived on a gated community. Right? Yeah. The Christmas, the lake is a Christmas tree. Yeah, like that's like.
Was that your episode, or did somebody else also sell there?
Rachel, I lived with Rachel.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Maybe you heard it from Rachel's. I don't think you talked about Avery.
She didn't talk about it on her episode.
I didn't talk about it on mine, but Rachel did.
Jacob knows. Jacob's seen every episode.
I do listen to a lot of episodes.
But Misty and Brad, so I just kind of jumped. Actually, they had. So it started off with 3 girls, then 1 left, then another 1 came in, then a 4th came in, then 1 left. So there was 3 of us still, then 2 of us left, and another 1 came in. So they were just like also a revolving door, and we're like, and they also had 4 boys, 3 of them living at home. Like there was a crap ton of, and it wasn't like this like anyway. Misty and Brad are just.
I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm kidding.
No. Actually, one of their
roasted.
friends, book goggles, was cute. Well, it wasn't that type of relationship. One of their.
That's what I was gonna ask Amy what she thought book goggles were, but we'll talk.
But Misty and Brad, the reason I wanted to shout them out is because I called them my second to last week before deliveries, and I was like, "Do you guys know anybody in your town?" Because they owned a mill, like a feed mill in the town, and their feed went to a lot of places, and so a lot of people knew of them. And I called them, and I was like, "Do you know anybody who can just take a quick look at my car? Like my car sometimes isn't starting, but my battery is fine. I just got a new one, and my brakes are like every time I brake. Every time. So going up to the house, I'm like, well, I'm here for sure because my brakes are loud enough. So they're like, oh yeah, we have someone that comes and looks at our work truck like every now and then. Let me call. And then she calls me back and she's like, oh, he's coming today. Why don't you just bring the car here? So I bring the car there. The guy checks it out and he's like, this is going to take a couple hours. Misty and Brad are like, oh, just take one of our cars. Yeah, just just use our car.
Wow.
And I trust myself
You
driving.
love
I
that.
think I'm a very good, but in my brain, I'm like, you're just going to let this, I've only known them for a week and a half. And they're like, yeah, just take our car. And they let someone else, one of our first years delivering, they also saved Susanna. Susanna was a walker all summer, didn't have a car until
3 deliveries.
Sunday at 7 p.m. We were on our way back to where we lived at our first HQ so that she could somehow deliver her books by a bookstore because she didn't have a ride and I was still selling. And Misty, right before, we just packed up my car to go back to our old HQ, and Misty's like, you know what, Susanna? Do you just want to drive my car all week? I can just take the work truck. And Susanna's
God.
Susanna almost started crying because she's like, yes, do you know how stressed out I was? Because she was going to have people come to her to get their book. Oh my gosh. Misty and Brad.
How do people
And they have
exist?
never hosted before. They were found because Kate and Rachel did a church, Kate and Grace did a church announcement, and someone in the crowd's sister is Misty. And Misty said, yeah, come to our party and just hosted.
Christians be hidden.
I'm going to say this right now.
Hidden.
I'm going to say this right now because I've said this plenty on the show before, and this is a theme, a fucking stigma that I have against, or the piece of, I don't know what to call it, grudge I have against book people for this. And then we can move on to the next question. But if you're a first year, if you're selling books right now and listening to this, for the love of everything that's good and holy, take care of the place that you're living in your HQ, because the fucking reason that for 160 years we've been doing this job and there still is a need to find HQs is because some fucking asshole, and I mean man and woman, child, young, old, first year or more, has mistreated and broken the trust of this person that they go, I don't want to do that again.
Funny story about that.
Stop.
Funny story about that, similar to Avery's thing. Just real quick before you move on, just to shit on Devin real quick. So Devin, when we were living with the Wonderfuls,
we love you, Devin, but geez.
Avery just like you, but was not as happy at him. Devin's car was going to crap. It was on its last legs, and like the amazing people the Stecks are, Mrs. Steck is like, oh, Devin, you can just use my car for the day for deliveries. And without exaggerating, they're loaded. They're loaded. They got some nice ass cars, like Cadillac, decked out Escalades type shit, Mm-hmm. And Devin takes it for the day. And I get home. And always they're sitting on their recliners in the living room watching the news or whatever. I get home this night and I walk into our basement because there's a basement entrance. And Miss Steck is just sitting there on our basement couch, just knitting and sitting there.
Oh, you're in trouble.
And I'm like, hey, Miss Steck, how was your day? And she does not sound happy. She was like, it was okay. Is Devin back yet? I'm like, no, what's up? She had gotten a notification from her car that it got a flat tire.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And she had called Devin, and apparently Devin, while pulling out of a driveway, had ran over some kid's toy, like a toy car or something, that punctured the wheel.
The way that sentence started, my heart dropped. So he had hit some kid's toy. I was like, oh shit.
Toy.
Yeah.
And she was like, that set of tires cost me $8,000. I'm not happy.
Man.
And I was like, damn, I'm glad I didn't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that
I
that
told the
wraps
story
up
of my
HQs.
people yeah, that's good. I like that.
I'm curious
Amy-
on this HQ thing. Avery and Andres, have your mother's parents, like, what is the craziest rule you think that they've come up with because they've hosted kids? You know, like there's only a
Yeah,
rule
my
because
mom-
someone broke it.
My mom has had bad experiences with the kids, and this is not to throw the Estonians under the bus, but it's always usually Estonians that she's hosted or some sort of like Eastern European. And
It's
there
usually comes
was
to Nebraska.
one particular person, it would have been Danny's 5th summer, because I was home, and they would just come upstairs and just eat out of her fridge like they own the place. Like
Yeah,
casually, like she'd be watching TV and then he'd come up and he'd like grab, and she didn't, my mom's too kind to say anything or to deny anyone food, but she just was like, are you out of your, I gave you a fridge downstairs for a reason, like you're supposed to get your damn, also this would be like on a Wednesday afternoon, like this kid was off schedule and he would just stay home and like just like, which is not, you like, at the very least, if you're going to be off schedule, don't go back to the HQ. You promised
the
people
host
that you weren't
family
going to be
doesn't-
around. That's the whole point.
Yeah.
So that was my mom. I think that was the summer she was almost like, I don't think I want to do this again, which my mom saying that was, after everything I've already described, it's a lot. But she still did anyway, because she feels bad for when the Europeans come, they don't have a place. But like
Why.
experiences like that where she's like I think now one of the rules is like use your own fridge. It's not like don't eat my
now
food,
it's an
but it's like
explicit rule, not an implied rule.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, it's that the fact they have to put that on a note. It's like, bitch, you're a
Yeah.
guest, man.
Yeah.
Take care of it.
Sad.
Yeah.
Sad.
You live and you learn. Clear communicate. Yeah, I don't think my parents. Well, they haven't hosted since, but I don't think that has to do. I don't think that has to do with the people they hosted. Because my mom was like, yeah, it's fine. Like, you know, whatever. We barely saw them, so it was fine. But we just won't do it again. And I think a lot of their circumstances have changed. And I know they like their space. Like, I know that they're people that just like aren't as open to taking people in that they're not comfortable with. Whereas me, like, I'm like, I don't know you. We'll figure it out along the way. If we don't like it, we'll change it then. Where they're like, nope, if we have a feeling we're not going to like it, we're not going to do it. My mom, the whole summer, though, when those boys were there, she was fine with all of it. My dad's a very, like, particular and, like, type A person. And this book kid that they hosted is not like that. Like, it's very charismatic and very energetic in the morning. And my dad is like, I'm my morning coffee and be quiet and be by myself and read the news. And this person, like, comes into the kitchen, like, doing spins and stuff. This person knows who they are and, like, still laugh. It's Christian Best. I mean, they know this. Like, they always. I mean, they still ask like how each other.
That
are doing,
tracks.
but, like,
That tracks
and it's
for
not.
sure.
It's not that like.
We love you, Christian.
And Sean briefly,
Well,
not Sean Briefly, Sean whoever did
Staffs
anything
him.
wrong. Like, yes, and I love
Staffs
both of
him.
those guys, but my parents just don't. They weren't open to it in the first place. Then they met Christian and Sean, and then they hosted. So if anything were to happen, it would be that same process again.
Mm-hmm.
But
Sean was my roommate. Sean was my roommate my first summer.
Oh, fun.
His second summer.
Okay.
But yeah,
Another
well, that's
question.
Yeah.
Is there anything against drinking coffee?
Yeah, well, this is it's a philosophy. Yvette was very anti caffeine.
Okay.
Because you crash.
Schools of thought. Yeah. Wait, Andre, did you have more to say on that?
No, that was it.
Okay. Yeah. So there's some people who are like, the summer is a cleanse. You got to be pure. No, nothing. No.
Just straight
no
positive
coffee.
energy.
No. Yeah. Like nothing but water and good vibes. And some people do that and they sell a lot of books and great. Fun fact, I never drank coffee in my life until my third summer. And
in your life?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think like at first it kind of came off like you're saying in your summers, but you're talking about your entire life. You didn't touch caffeine or in coffee.
I when I was young, my dad let me take a sip of his coffee, and I thought it tasted like shit. And I'm like, I'm not going to drink that. That doesn't taste good.
Wow.
Fair.
And so, my first summer, I did like Red Bulls during the day. And then my second summer,
God.
my second
I
summer,
won't drink coffee,
all
but
of-
I'll just like digest straight caffeine. Okay.
oh yeah, I'm not.
It didn't
not
taste like
claiming
shit,
it's
though.
Better. It just tastes better. Yeah.
Sure.
I was not claiming to be pure at all. Second summer, all of Eagle Bliss was hooked on NamJam, and when I say
Oh,
that,
like little squirt.
no, Amy,
Oh,
we did not squirt it in water and drink it. Yes, we would squirt
You
it
snorted
straight in
it.
our mouth.
Oh,
that's really efficient, I guess.
It's disgusting. The thought of it makes me gag. So I did that my second summer, and then my third summer. And the reason why my third summer actually planned on doing a full cleanse, nothing but energy and good vibes. But the thing was, I was falling asleep at doors.
Mhm.
Like I was literally falling asleep at people's doors, and I just knew I'm not being productive for the first 2 hours of my day. I'm not getting any sit downs. I'm definitely not selling any books between 8 and 10:30 in the morning. So I'm like, this needs to change. And so we were at our diner, funniest fucking diner ever. It was a diner attached to a motel that also probably had drug dealers, but it was a bigger one. And the waitress, same waitress every morning, fucking loved us, made jokes with us. We flicked each other off. It was a blast,
flirted with
But
you a
I
little
was
bit.
like, what? Yeah, a little too much, even though she was, anyway. One day I was like, you know what? The coffee costs, whatever it costs, $2-3, whatever. If each cup of coffee makes me sell one more unit each day, it'll pay for itself.
Worth it.
And so then someone told me just to put creamer in it, and it tasted way better.
Oh, yeah, game changer.
And so I started drinking coffee in the mornings, 1 or 2 cups, and look at that. I was wide awake in the morning, and I was the same amount of awake the rest of the day, and I started selling some more books. And that was a very long story about coffee. But
Philosophies. This is
Yeah.
controversial. This is
Yeah.
But what's funny is the reason I decided to do it is because I listened to a lot of advanced sales over my summers. Many, many, many advanced sales. I listened
Hold
to
on.
so many.
Question about advanced sales. These are just like recordings that people
What do you
who
think
sold
they
a
are?
lot. They like
Yeah, what do you think they
1,
are?
2, 3, how'd you do it? And then they say like, this is how I did it, and these are some things that I've learned. And some are better storytellers than others, and then those get popular, and then people listen to them. I don't know. Is that what an advanced sales
Yeah,
tape is?
it's
No,
basically
no.
like
Okay.
It's like imagine like a keynote speech of sorts, but they're talking about a certain thing, whether it's how to improve sales or whether it's how to be better at this thing or this thing and that thing, recruiting, whatever. It's just a person just like talking about ways to improve in certain areas. Some more
How
specific.
long are they? Like
A
15
lot
They
minutes,
vary,
like
but
an hour?
they're like 30 to an hour, probably 30 minutes
Okay.
to an hour.
Okay.
they're all
A
in
So,
lot
there.
of
like-
times they're like recorded parts from the Great Recruiter Seminar or from sales school, because a lot of those are already recorded and they just use that audio and you put on a tape.
We'll come back to
So-
this, but Jacob, finish your story.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't.
Yeah, so I had already listened to every advanced sales on the MRC that was available to us. And it got to the point where I had started going through old GRSs and watching those videos. And these are just like there because they put them on there. These are not to be listened to. But I used to listen to them because I needed something. And I watched, who's the governor? Kevin Stitt.
Yeah.
Him speaking at GRS. And someone, I forgot what the question was, but someone asked him a question about like energy throughout the day or something. And he basically like, it was kind of funny. He kind of like made fun of them. And he was like, don't y'all have coffee? Like, why are you tired? Just drink coffee.
They
Yeah.
tell us
And-
not to.
Rao used to
And-
drink
yeah,
like a
and-
pot of coffee before he went to work. Like,
That's
weird.
Well, 'cause
crazy.
before then, I had heard the philosophy of don't drink coffee, blah, blah, blah. and you sold a lot of books. But then this guy, Kevin Stitt, who sold a lot of books, said drink coffee. I was like, well, if he said it, it's got to be okay. Because, coachable. And so that's why I listened to it. So that's why I listened to Drink Coffee.
On advanced sales, sometimes it was just like impromptu speeches. Like sometimes people would give who was this talking? Trey George was telling us, and even though it's more advanced sales for recruiting, but Trey George was telling us that the reason that his was done is because like he just started talking about how to do it, and people were like, whoa, wait, we got to record this. So for like 3 hours just went.
And it's one of the most famous advanced sales ever.
Yeah,
probably, arguably.
Some of them, they give them to you as a first year. They give them to you strategically. Like some of them are about how to have a great first approach, how to have a good mentality in the summer, how to have fun. So it's like when you need that the most. But then as like if you're like
CDs now, or
they were
digital?
for the long
they were
up until like 2017 there were CDs.
Okay.
They still try to hand out CDs, and I just look at them and I'm like, we don't have
a lot of cars
CD
don't actually have
players.
CD players anymore. Yeah.
I have a few-year-old car, doesn't have a CD player. I'm like, you guys.
The whole reason there were CDs is because you're not supposed to be on your phone. And so then, like, if you went to your phone, but now it's like you have Sales Rabbit, so it doesn't matter. But also to be noted is that some of them weren't even about selling more. Like, for example, the Bill Zizzy, Dave Rosen one it really doesn't talk much about more sales. It's just more like a Ponytails episode where it's just like they're just telling funny stories throughout the whole time, and it's just fun to just like keep listening to how they do it because this was a historic year that they had when they recorded this, and so it was what just depends.
One of my favorite advanced sales, and actually, you really should get him on the show. Les Stretch. I don't know if you ever heard that one, Andres. Probably not.
Les Stretch.
Yeah, he's like. He was on, I think, Virgie's first team.
Number one producer.
He was on Virgie's first team at Baylor. Like he helped Virgie build Dynasty.
Oh, we need to get him on. I've never even heard of this guy.
He's a Dynasty legend. He ran one of the offices of Tom James for a while, and now he does other stuff. But no, yeah, he's incredible. Anyway, his advanced sales on the MRC. It's not advanced sales. It's a recording at him at GRS, and it's when they did those I guess it was like a breakout room in the like an optional breakout room in the morning or something.
Yeah, they don't do them anymore.
No. Oh, and so the entire part is the name of the part is. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. I listened to it a lot of times. The name of the part is if you want to have a net worth of $1 million, find the guy or girl of your dreams, recruit someone, or get all A's in school, come to this part. That was the name of the part.
Wow.
And basically the things he talks about is like just like having a balanced life is the entire part. He talks about just like having a balanced life and like the 5 F's or whatever it is, like finance, fitness, faith, so on and so forth. And that's all he talks about. It's not about sales. It's not about recruiting. It's just about that. And it is one of my favorite advanced sales I've ever heard.
I like it. I'll have to listen to it and try to get him on the show. My favorite story from advanced sales, one of my favorite stories from the advanced sales. I'll just pick one. Mark
not including
Rouse.
Ziggy Rosen.
Yeah. Mark Rouse story about the animals football game. You guys never heard this?
I've heard all the advanced sales that are out there. If I didn't
the big animals were playing the little animals.
Tell it.
The big animals are playing the little animals in football first half. And I'm gonna obviously go through it quicker because the whole point of his story is he builds it.
He is such a storyteller.
He's such a good storyteller.
Yeah. Mark Rouse is a great storyteller. We need to have him on here at some point whenever he's done. Anyway, so the big animals are just destroying everyone. Talking about like rhinos, elephants, lions. They're the big animals are playing like the gazelles, the little insects, and they're getting smoked. And then all of a sudden, halftime, and they're giving the lead of the small animals, squirrels, like giving a big speech, and we're like, we're gonna get them, don't give up, guys. And so they go back out to the second half, and the rhino's making a freaking run for it. It looks like it's all hell loose. They're gonna destroy this little chipmunk, and all of a sudden, boom, and he gets knocked out. All of a sudden, it's like, whoa, what the hell? Then all of a sudden, same play, elephant's coming. He's gonna squeeze a little chipmunk, boom, gets knocked out. And lo and behold, comeback story, insects win. They're back at the locker room, and this coach squirrel's like, who took out the rhino? And there's this little millipede just chilling out in the back going, that was me. And like, wow, great play. And he goes, who took out the elephant? And he raises a whole other leg, probably one in the back, and he's like, that was me. And he goes, all right, and who took out the lion? He goes, that was also me. He goes, where the hell were you the first half of the game? He goes, I was lacing up my boots. So good. It's so good, bro. The way it's already good like that, but Mark Rao tells it, and it's so fucking funny, man. It's so good.
I can see him doing a job with that.
It's so good. So good. That's the same one he talks about how Michael Phelps prepped for the Olympics, so he won all the golds by like swimming 10,000 meters a day. It's so good when he tells it. 10,000 meters a day every day, except for Christmas every year. It's the only 4 days he took off. And so when his goggles filled up with water, he's like, I knew exactly how many strokes I had left because I'd done this so many times. It's really good. And Rao at Advanced Sales is world class. Yeah, world class.
Good at Advanced Sales.
Yeah, that was my favorite. What about you, Avery? Do you have a favorite story from Advanced Sales that you?
I don't, but I have a favorite story about Mark Rao. If I can share that. Okay.
Is there one I think it is?
So it's kind of I guess, in part of Advanced Sales. So it was 2020, my 4th summer, COVID summer. I'm in West Virginia. COVID doesn't actually exist there. So we're just a normal summer. And I've been doing pretty well. So I had never, I guess just to tell about my 4th summer, because I haven't before, I had never hit the President's Club before in my previous 3 summers. And my 4th summer, my first 2 weeks, I did it back to back. So I was like, awesome. This is going to be a great summer. This is awesome. West Virginia, I love you. I will always love West Virginia for that reason. About week 7 or 8, Rao texts me and a bunch of top producing women at that time.
Oh yeah.
And he says like, hey, I know a bunch of you ladies are or a bunch of these guys are hitting more. Like, who's going to be the first female to step up? Because it was like Vicky Varberg, Alex Ramos-Castros, Emma Barnett, like
legends, all legends,
top producing women. So first of all, I'm like, me, like I'm in this group, like, so that was really cool. But so the song by Nicki Minaj and not Meg Thee Stallion. Is it Meg Thee Stallion?
It is Nicki Minaj.
Yeah. I don't know. It's like all these Cardi B, all these ladies. The song WAP drops in the summer of 2020. And Amy, to let you know, Rachel Schwant and I's execs were just dancing, whether it be headbanging or it be, and we had a handshake. We added to our handshake every single day. And then we'd do the whole thing every single day. It was really fun. And most of the time we would like dance for 10 minutes and then we'd do the handshake. So WAP dropped and I was like, yo, this song is like women power. Like, let's go. Dropped it in that group chat with all those high producing women and Rao.
Oh no.
And I was like, Rao. And I said, yeah, and Rao. And I said, Rao, don't listen to this, but ladies, this song just dropped, which I already knew was like, he's gonna go listen to it, but I don't really care. Like, I don't care. I'm listening. This is what's happening in my life. And
oh my god.
And then later on in the summer, someone hit PC. I think it was Vicky or maybe Emma. And
Mort,
1,000 units in a week. Gosh, $8,000 of profit in a week. And Rao responds in the text and like WAPs, whatever, like in the back of my mind. And now I'm on to like some new EDM drop that just came out. And Rao in the group text, like a Big Mac truck, way to go, Vicky Varberg. And I'm just like, it doesn't register. It still doesn't register in my brain. I'm like, Big Mac truck. I'm like, is that like from Anna? Or is like that from like something in the past? So then fast forward to September, killer summer, first time hitting growth. Rao and I are chatting in Daytona or in Jacksonville, getting our PC in, our personal conference. And Rao, I'm like, wait, Rao, can we go back like to this group chat? Because you said like a Big Mac truck. Did you mean that song WAP that I sent earlier, because there was multiple chats between there, and he's like, oh yeah, I played it in the car with my whole family in it and the girls loved it.
No, that's fantastic.
He's like,
They
Now
knew
their
what-
family
I gotta
anthem.
play it. Yeah, so it's like Rao and Kim Rao and the girls in the
and for
back, and
context-
the girls were like, oh yeah, we love this song. And so I'm like, oh gosh, like
Yeah,
from the top they get dropped. I'm like, oh no.
For context for everyone, like Rao's daughters are not like young little girls. Like they are like in college. They know what that means. So that's really
We're
funny.
not sponsored by Cardi B, but we could be.
But we could be.
We could be.
We could be.
Oh my
I need to
gosh.
go. I'm gonna grab some more some stuff to continue on this episode.
Okay.
Are we still good? Are we still going? I'm still Gucci. It's
Yeah.
I'm good.
okay. I need to go.
I know the plans are 9:30 at night. So yeah.
I'm gonna go grab something.
Okay. All right.
BRB.
Okay.
Anyway, sorry, go on. I'll be right. You guys continue.
That was my WAP. Advanced sales. I didn't listen to a lot of advanced sales in my summers. I just mostly listened to music. I didn't listen to music. I told this on my podcast, but then advanced sales, I got too much in my brain. I'm a very emotional seller. Like I need to be right in here before I say anything technically right. I do think Alex and I have this argument all the time between if you feel technically confident, that's technically helping your attitude, so therefore your attitude's better. I was like, no, which is probably right. But yeah, which one comes in? And
the egg comes first. But it does.
Sure.
In every scenario, it does. It just does. Avery, I could talk for a very long time about that topic. So we can get into under the gun, which probably shouldn't go to even do it. So I was the opposite. I shouldn't have been. I ended up not being, but it was the opposite. I listened to, like I said, every advanced sales on human earth. And the reason for that is I thought that would help me sell more books because I wasn't selling a lot of books. And I was like, okay, it's got to be a technical thing. Like that's got to be why I'm not selling a lot of books. So I'm like, okay, let's get better approach. I would watch every approach advanced sales. Got great at the approach. Okay, it's not that. Got to work on intro. Watch every, and so on and so forth. I watched, like, it got to the point where Amy, my DSL, sent me the secret archives of advanced sales that Southwestern took off the site because they were so old or whatever. And I listened to all of those.
Oh my gosh.
I listened to Zizi Rosen.
Austin Gerber has all of them.
Yeah. No. I have all of them. I have access to the archives Google Drive. Zizi Rosen, old Matt Atchison ones. Like all
You didn't have that Mark Rao one.
I know. But okay, I guess not all of them, but it's a lot of them. So like I went down rabbit hole. But Avery, like even I listened to all those. I sold a few more books, but not as much as you should if you're that technically sound. And then obviously, as we know, as Shane Blick so elegantly puts it, attitude isn't everything, it's the only thing. Shout out Shane Blick. And it wasn't until I realized that end of third, fourth summer when I just stopped caring about all that shit and just stopped giving a shit and just did what I want to do. And I sold a lot of books. But the way I describe it is I like using like a car analogy. I love analogies. I use a car analogy. And I think that your technical ability in selling books is like the car you're driving and your attitude is the gas. So like you can have really great grass.
Have a really good outside, but yeah.
For the engine. Yeah, like for example, like you could like a first year. First year is not technically sound at all. They're the least technically sound out of anyone. But there are first years that sell 4, 5, 6, 7,000 units. So logically, that proves that you don't need a year of technical studying to sell 7,000 units. So, for example, let's say a first year is like a Honda Civic. a Honda Civic can go 70 miles an hour, sell 700 units. But I think it's when you get technically good, you can turn your car from a Honda Civic to like a Porsche or a Ferrari, and those cars have a threshold or capability to sell, whatever, 10, 15, 20,000 units. But people get so caught up in having a better car before they've even reached the capabilities of their own car.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the reason why I was able to have such a big jump from 2 to almost 6 is because I already had all the technical capability I needed for much more. So when I figured out some of the attitude things, it just filled in the gap.
Yeah, it's
That's
almost
gold.
like your information consumption exceeded like what your attitude would allow you to produce. And so like your knowledge base was almost too high. Like maybe you consumed too much information too fast. Like it all worked out the way it's supposed to work out, and that's great. But like, because I recognize that similar feature in myself where I'll like get really into something and I'll like just binge consume all the things about this thing. And it's usually about like personal growth or like development or like a new habit tracker, whatever it might be. But then it really is like, oh, I actually need to slow down and like think about these and implement these one thing at a time.
Goes
And
to
it kind of
show,
is to your
and
detriment
that
in the
goes to
short
prove that goes to prove that first years can totally listen to this podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? You know, I used to disagree with that, but when it's almost like here's what I'll say. I almost think it's okay for them to listen to it when they're being recruited, but I'm still not. And I don't want to discuss this, but I'm still not sold on it during.
No, I understand. During the summer. No, you know what? I'll meet you halfway. I'll say I understand. That's fair. That's fair.
But to go off what Amy was saying, it kind of goes back to the idea that we talked about Southwestern of the transition from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence. Because I think for a long time I was in the zone of conscious incompetence. Like I knew so many things about why I wasn't doing well.
Which is such a
And then
frustrating place to be.
It's the worst of the four.
Yeah.
And
actually, it's the best though. It's the best.
It's not. It's nice. It's
because the rest of it is up to you.
The worst.
It's because the only thing in your way is that it's up to you. If you had a great attitude but you didn't have the skill, that's not even in your control.
Andres, in the last two, you're competent. Better. In the first one, you don't know you're incompetent. Better. But
once you know you suck, it's really terrible.
That's the worst.
But I think there's almost an attitude. I think you can put technical and attitude in two different boxes because you can be technically consciously incompetent, but attitudinally you don't really know what's going on until you're like, oh, I need to work on loving myself. Like you don't know.
That's a great point.
I think the attitude is almost the consciousness. Because okay, here's at least how I feel. I think when I figured out some attitude things, like when I figured out about just like not caring people think about me and the other things I figured out, that kind of allowed me to move to like I feel like I almost skipped the third one and I moved to unconscious competence. Because I think what was holding me back was my attitude. I think my attitude was putting me in the conscious part of conscious incompetence. Because I was just so focused and stuck on all that, and I care about all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons. And I think when my attitude shifted, it moved me from conscious incompetence into almost unconscious competence.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
It was a quick step to the next step.
Quick ascension.
Yeah.
I had a question for Amy. Now we've learned on the episodes, we've learned like the lessons that people have shared with us weren't necessarily new to book people, because it's like we've heard someone say something like that before. It's just more like, for me, oftentimes it's like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Like, we haven't thought about it this way. There's been a lot of epiphanies just because we can relate to the stories that people are saying. From your end, you never sold. Are there any, like, I don't know if it's 5 or 3 or 2 even, or 1, but like lessons that people learned that from their stories you were like, oh, and it like like it changed the way that you really like profoundly impacted how you operate?
Good question.
That's a good question. And if I
try.
had more
I've gotten a lot of
time,
practice, guys.
182 episodes, and just generally in life. I mean, that's the thing I appreciate about you, Andres, as a friend, is ask good questions. God, that really puts me on the spot.
I mean, it doesn't
I
have to
don't
be the
know
one that most,
content.
but maybe the one that you can think of the quickest, where it's just like,
Yeah.
man, when Dave Rosen said this or whatever.
Yeah, and where I'm gonna fail is in my memory of who said and who said what. But there have been so many times where what I'm remembering is how I felt, right? Like, people don't remember what you say, they remember how you made them feel. And that's what's strongest for me at this moment. There were so many times where whatever was going on in my personal life, like the episode that I was taking notes on or that I got to sit in on, spoke directly to that in a way that I was like, I wouldn't have come to this on my own. So it was like, yeah, these lessons from the book field, or what maybe is like old hat, or like, oh yeah, I remember that because I experienced that, like really spoke to me in a really particular way. And there have been too many to remember. I think one that would happen most recently, I guess, that I can't remember, so I should take that phrase back. But just there were some things happening with my day job where I was like, I just don't feel like I'm given the benefit of the doubt in what was said about what I said or whatever. And got to listen to Alex Bednar's episode, and his grit and tenacity to push for the truth for a decade of like that he has been slandered. And, we're hearing his side of the story. There could be other sides of the story, but that's not the point of the podcast. It's to hear his side of the story. Like that really hit me of like, okay, I can fight for the truth. Or, like in a different way of like, okay, what way can my heart be changed and formed that like, maybe it doesn't matter, but like there can be a change in my perspective and my attitude in this situation. But that like hit at just the right time where it felt really pertinent in my life. And like I said, that's happened so many times.
That's really interesting. Did you think that, because by the way, Alex Bednar's episode was wild.
Yeah. And one of our shorter episodes too. Like,
yeah. Jacob, have you heard it yet?
Not yet.
Buckle up.
Might be the craziest episode we've ever done.
Okay,
don't listen to it on super speed. Don't do chipmunk speed on that one, because like
I know
you gotta follow the characters.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like a Game of Thrones episode.
Not as often with podcasts, but audiobooks, it's like 1.75 speed. Like,
really?
Let's go.
Oh,
yeah.
I can't do that. I'm not a fast reader. That's funny though. It is interesting. Oh wait, Andres, do you have something?
No, I was gonna ask a follow-up to that. So it's happened a lot of times from throughout listening to all the episodes. Has there been 1 or 2 people that you remember that really shook you? Like, for example, like I always think of Kate Wright's episode, right? Oftentimes, because it was like the first one that like, I mean, and I have a lot of favorites. By the way, there's no episode that we've done that I have not enjoyed. Let me just put it before people are like, oh, he doesn't like this person.
Yeah.
No, it's just
Kate Wright was powerful though.
Just moments as I'm sitting on this side of the chair, just like listening to that person tell their story. And then I just go, oh my God. I cannot imagine. Noelle Sporer having the abortion in the middle of the summer. Like I said, the Kate Wright episode. Alex Bednar is another one where I'm like, what did you say just happened to you? Yeah, and we got some more coming. Oh my God. But it was funny because we know who's up. And the stories are told. But dude, for real, like some of them are just like. So do you have those moments from in your life? And we can go around for all three of you guys. Like, have there been moments where you were just like, wow, this is something, maybe something where like you thought yourself, this should be heard by the world. Like this lesson, this story, this thing should be on like, you know, a much bigger podcast, or for this reason, this podcast should be, you know, huge. I don't know.
Yeah. I pulled up the guest log so that I could jog my memory because, you know, we've got a lot of people in the queue. One that I have recommended to other non-book people, I love Michelle Mitchell's episode about how she started Hum Kombucha. And I just feel it's so really, good. Really
Great
relatable
episode.
As a non-book person. I don't know, it just felt really tangible, and her lessons or kind of that grit aspect was really inspiring. Gosh. And
we can go popcorn here. You know, I already gave 3 of mine.
If
someone else has another one, go for it.
Okay, I also have a lot because also I've listened to all of them. But one that comes to mind that at least was a big epiphany for my summer and could be for someone else's. So actually, it's funny. So Avery, in your episode, you talk about how you realized that if someone gives you a goal, like for example, if you do this, you can speak at the meeting. You'll do it. Like you're and so before this past summer, I didn't know what that was, but I knew that was not me. And so it was Lee McCroskey's episode.
Dude. Also.
The
whole episode.
I mean,
his bell was just on
the whole
point.
thing.
Yeah.
The whole thing, but
the last ponytail is maybe my favorite story we've heard.
The whole thing is really something. But there's one part where he actually talks about talks about a training exercise he did with orgs, where he would have them write 2 situations, and basically he taught the concept of toward and away motivation. And I'd never been told about that. Never knew what that was. But as soon as he talked about it, I was like, I'm away motivated. And I know we talked about this on my episode, but Southwestern as a whole, I think personally, heavily leans in favor of towards motivated people.
Yeah, because of the recognition. Because of the recognition. Yeah.
Awards.
Yeah.
Everything.
I want to run with the horses.
Yeah, you want this? Work for it, you'll get it. But to me, I don't fucking care if I get that. I don't need that. Like, I'll be totally fine if I don't sit on someone's back. I'll be totally fine if I don't have a hoodie that sits in my closet that I never wear. Like, I'll be fine. But then I heard Liam across the episode, and I was like, duh. And that was a big turning point in my summer, where I actually started making bets with people, but they were not bets for rewards. They were bets that were painful.
Bets
so,
for
example, yeah. So one bet I made twice actually with both Martin and Maria, the loser on Sizzler had to get the other person drinks for an entire night on Club Night at Sizzler. And not exaggerating, drink bitch.
Yep.
The entire week, 80% of my self-talk is I am not getting them drinks. That would suck. So I'm going to sell a lot of books. And those were my best weeks out of the entire summer.
Yeah,
that's gold. And I beat both of them. And Martin and Maria hated those nights. Or even small things. The first time I tested this theory was the day after I followed Jordan, because I did not want to go to work. And so I asked him if I could follow someone. He said, follow Jordan. And I was like, okay, Jordan, I have an idea. He's like, what's up? I'm like, tomorrow, whoever sells more books, the loser has to drive the other one to the Sunday meeting. And it was like a long drive. And I was like, I do not want to drive them. And that was the second time I sold over 200 units in a day.
That's a powerful lesson to learn about yourself.
I did not.
Yeah.
Because the idea of driving Jordan's lazy, sleeping ass for 2 hours sounded horrible.
Oh gosh.
He did end up beating me, which was so annoying.
But you still had to drive him.
That was one of your best days. Yeah.
But you had a great day.
Yeah.
I had a great day. But
And
anyway.
like implementing a really powerful lesson that probably fuels you now. Like,
Today,
when I need motivation, this is what I need to do because I know this about myself.
It does. Still to this day, I make bets with my Southwestern coach, and every time I do, I never fail.
That's great.
Also, shout out
And-
Metscher.
Yeah.
Yes,
On a side note,
he's not mine, but in general, yes.
Yeah.
And then to wrap it up, so like you said, like this is something that should be spread. Ella Roach, Pat's daughter, she was having some trouble. She had almost hit PC as a first year. She had already hit Sizzler. She was really getting complacent, and she just wanted to finish the summer. And I had recognized similarities between me and her in a lot of ways. And I was also in a similar boat at part of the summer. And I was like, she's not being towards motivated. She doesn't care about recognition. She already has everything she needs, towards wise. So I literally had her do the Lee McCroskey exercise. I gave her a sheet of paper and I said, on one side, I want you to write what would happen if you gave your best the rest of the summer and you crushed it and you blew your goals out of the water. And then I had her write on the other side, what if you didn't? And I said to her, how would it feel when you were at the awards banquet sitting next to your dad and everyone else is up there getting their awards?
Shout out Pat.
And you're not, because you didn't give your best. And then she had a good finish the rest of her summer.
That's a good PC. That's a good PC.
Good job, Jacob.
Me and Ella had good PCs.
Man.
Good stuff.
I wish
bro.
someone would have given me that PC. I'm like, wow, I thought I was totally towards motivated. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm totally away.
Yeah.
Totally away.
Hey guys, hope you're enjoying the episode so far. I know I am. I wanted to give a quick shout out to the people that make this show possible, the people that bring this show to you. These are people who all sold books, and we're here to give a quick shout out to them in a spotlight about their company and what they're up to. So if you're interested, or if after listening to this, you're kind of wanting to know a little bit more, feel free to click on the links below to connect with these people. These are from an excerpt I have with them from a podcast that I do on the side. It's called Executive Exercises, where we take all our sponsors and they come into a think tank and share some awesome ideas about how to grow their business specifically on different topics. Go check that out. But I pulled some of the comments that they had explaining what they do and who they're looking for on their companies. And so if that sounds like you, like I said, click below. Hope you enjoy. That's okay. And actually, and this is good to, I had Nick kind of explain this a little bit too, but it's because I've been in the insurance industry before. For people who are listening, like, how do you make 115% commission?
The way I explain it to people is the insurance companies we represent. So we're a broker. All these companies we work with, they know they're not really going to be making any money off the sales that I make for the first several years. But they don't care about that. They know these clients are going to be on the books for 10, 15, 20, 25 years. So they know they're going to make money over the long haul. And so part of the reason agents are able to make so much is there's all these companies out here and they're all competing for the broker's business, because these companies don't actually have their own in-house sales force. They have independent contractors. And so if their compensation or their commission levels that they offer aren't competitive, I'm not going to place any business with them.
Hello, off schedule moment. Wanted to tell you about Southwestern Real Estate. They're 99% drama free, only 99, not 99.9. So it's a bit spicy, kind of like this episode. Anyway, they will learn you to kick ass at real estate. So make sure you guys click the link below, get in touch with them. Okay, back to work. Bye. That'll do for now. Like I said, make sure you click below to get some more information. And now back to the show.
It's a powerful lesson to know what you are.
And I think people are one or the other, depending on the thing that they're trying to accomplish too.
Sure.
Maybe.
But yeah. Avery, how about you? Do you have any episodes, or Amy, did you think of other ones that like really moved you?
Gosh, I got really wrapped into Jacob's story, so I stopped looking at the list. But Avery, you can go.
So
I'll take that compliment.
I listened to Rachel Schwann's episode. Shout out Rachel Schwann. I love her. And I don't think she got much into this in her podcast, in her episode. So if you ever run into Rachel Schwant sometime, just ask her to tell you about her upbringing and just like all the shit that not only contributed to her upbringing, but also to her summers. I think she shared some of it. I can't remember. But specifically her second summer. Like I just wish I've almost like was thinking about it and I was like, I'm probably gonna cry when I'm talking about this just because she like not only on the field, but at home was going through so much and was the one that was like supposed to be the rock for her family. And it was either like, I'm going to choose myself for them or I'm going to choose them and not myself and therefore always be choosing them. Just a really tough like first 7 weeks of her summer. And then the whole second half of her summer hit growth from her previous summer, like just like crushed it the second half. I don't know if she hit growth or not, but just that like recovery and just like not choosing herself selfishly, but actually choosing herself selflessly so that she can be better for her family and for everything. And like that story is, I think, so relatable for so many people in the United States of just like her ongoing battle with not her family, but just with things that can happen. She's just, her family is so strong. Everyone in her family is so strong. And I think that story should be told to the world.
Great story. Put your mask on first before helping others if the airplane's coming to a, nosedive. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for
great
sure.
Story.
We've had some crazy, incredible stories just on this show. The way that people, and maybe this is me just talking to people who are listening, but the way that people pour into what we're doing, who compliment what we're doing, who understand the value of what we're providing people, what we're providing the community that is built by us, that sold and did this crazy job. We really appreciate it here because, it's about time that somebody in the history of the company decided to, try to unite these people and find them. And that's what we're doing here at the show. And it's a team effort that's been slowly, surely, but growing. But thank you guys for listening and hope you guys enjoy it. More to come. We will not run out of alumni interview as long as the legend is true. But yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying these as much as we are because we know we're having a blast. And we feel blessed by every person that gets to sit on the other side of the screen and tell us about their life and what they're doing. So it's pretty cool. For me, another one that just came to mind while you were talking is actually Pat Roach's episode 2. Pat Roach's was like
one of my favorite, by the way.
It's so good. It's like what this show is all about.
Story, everything.
Yeah. How he gives you some details and how to grow up a big company, but at the same time he's funny and he's like, you could tell he's having a blast.
He gets vulnerable about like his lows in his career too.
Yeah. Just really moving stuff. I appreciate it. Anybody else got any favorites?
Well, I was gonna say if we wanted to, we could kind of start to. I think this was a good note to start to close up on. If you want to like do some, maybe like each of us give ponytail, and then maybe Amy could tell her favorite ponytail she's heard to kind of close it out.
That would be really fun if I could remember exactly. I mean, funniest ponytail for sure
for any reason
is Lee McCroskey's flagpole story. Oh my gosh.
That might be the best story we've been told.
One of these days we're gonna get you to compile all of the poop stories and it's gotta culminate in that one because it's just.
Did I told my poop stories, right, on mine?
Yeah, you told a couple, but we've had several. Okay. Like we've had there's so many good poop stories.
Yeah, I gotta go back and tag all of those.
We gotta go find all the poop stories. Well, and really what we want to do is create like a reel of all the good ponytails. So like ponytails, because we've had such a variety. Naomi James' episode is a fucking
a ponytail after a ponytail.
It's just honestly
still my favorite episode.
Like of all the stories that have been told in this show, if we had to like rank them from like just craziest, both whether it's funny or not, like 8 of them would be hers. in the top 50. Like
Yeah.
the whole episode
Yeah.
is just like the murder, the Sizzler story, like just
Amish.
crazy.
So many of them, dude. So many.
Yeah,
So crazy. So crazy. Yeah. So
I know. I think I got off of her episode and my face hurt because I had laughed so much.
Literally the whole
Gosh.
time.
So it starts out hot too. It's just like right off the bat.
The
We're like, whoa,
whole
here we go.
time.
Yeah.
It's just stories the whole time. It's fantastic.
It's a
Yeah.
ride. It's a ride. So yeah, we can each tell a good ponytail, then Amy can pick. Maybe pick like your favorite funny one, your favorite like impactful or it's like intense one, and your favorite like random one or something like that. If you
Well,
want
can
to
I
pick.
start with like my favorite intense one? I
Yeah.
just like minimize
Yeah.
the screen. I mean, I think I would be remiss to say that Noelle's episode this season wasn't just like the
Yeah.
biggest mic drop I think I've experienced on the show thus far. And we've already mentioned it, but spoiler alert, she has an abortion on the bookfield and didn't tell anybody about it. And I remember like being on my like
That was
non
intense,
on
dude.
the screen side. And I think I was crying, and just like her ability, like the work that she's done to be able to tell her story in just this, like, this is how it was. And like, I'm not trying to sugarcoat it, and I'm not trying to like make it so you don't judge me about this, but like, this was the decision, and it was the most logical decision I could make. And when we recorded that, the Supreme Court overruling had recently happened. So it felt very fresh as a woman for her to be sharing that story.
Also,
after
and it
the
should be
episode, like-
noted. It should be
Go
noted.
ahead.
We don't do pre-approach for these. We didn't know that the story was coming before. It's like, oh,
She
you
like
used her
alluded to like,
drop it.
I've got like a really wild story to share or something to that
Yeah.
level, but
We don't normally know what these are coming. I mean, sometimes
Yeah.
I know because I know the person, but it's very rare that we know it's coming. So we had no
Yeah.
idea what we're doing. And by we, I mean Amy was in the background taking notes,
yeah.
and I'm like,
And so
listening to
after
this.
the episode, I mean, I just like sincerely thanked her for sharing her story, because I can only imagine that there are more women that have had similar experiences on the book field who have never been able to feel like they could express what really happened and their decision making and how challenging that is, or the position that they could have been put in. So, I mean, that's like, serious moment of like, that's a big decision that no one should have to make alone and in silence. In this
summer.
like community that's supposed to like develop you, and there's this high level of trust. Like, it just, I was so sad for the position that
That's-
she ended up in.
That's
that
a whole
summer.
conversation in itself.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
I just like want to give her huge kudos for her bravery of sharing her story, of trusting us with her story, and that was big. I'll think of a funny ponytail here in a moment.
we should do a crowd vote and see like and just see and like maybe do like a video
Favorite?
content of our favorite stories, like our favorite funny stories, our favorite intense stories, you know.
Mhm. That could be cool.
Because we know book people like recognition and to be told that they were top 5 in something.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure Brandon would love that.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, Q. Yeah, oh my gosh, Q would just come back on the show. Just
His
to
got to
tell-
be up there.
His
his gotta
ponytail
be
is
up
also
there.
really good. Yeah,
Top 10 at
Q's-
least.
Q's got arrested and then goes to jail and then Sizzler and then they hit the rock. Yeah,
And he
pretty-
tells it well too. It's not just the
Yeah.
story itself. Like he's a good.
Also,
yeah.
he might hold the record for the longest ponytail
that was 30 minutes.
storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although-
Also a very
although-
long episode too.
Although, which now it's nothing like that. It was like 3 hours or 2 hours and
Well,
45 minutes, and we were
he's
like,
very
whoa.
top 5 longest episode.
Yeah, maybe. But the thing about that's crazy about that story is that before I knew this story, he's one of those people I knew was coming. But he goes, I got a short version of this, I got a long version of this, or I got a medium version of this. I'm like, just tell me that. And that was the medium version of it. Because there's more details that I've heard, like just drinking with him, that I'm like, that he left out. And I'm like, oh
That's the
shit.
medium. And he was
Yeah.
right. He said it'd be about half an hour.
Yeah. He's told it a lot of times. Like Brandon's one that knows his cadence really well. I mean, he does stand up.
Yeah, comedian.
But
yeah.
anyway, okay, ponytail. I could start with the ponytails, what you two think, and then Amy also maybe thinks of a couple more that she liked. But we're talking about personal ponytails, right? Is you're saying?
Sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, I'm gonna tell I think I've told this before, but and then they bought Story, which is great. And
those are my okay. Quick pause. I know we love hearing all the ponytails. How'd you meet? The impactful thing. But and then they bots are just the best ones. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean,
Continue.
they're you're great. You're right. This is great. The second summer, oh man, I got a couple from this summer that are pretty good. But okay, second summer, selling in South Kingston or East Kingston, Massachusetts. This is a bag. This is the time I dropped the bag. So I had dropped bags. I was good at dropping bags. My first summer as a first year, I did like 2 or 3 maybe, and this is maybe my 4th one of this summer that I was doing. But I changed it up. So there's 2 ways to sell the bag. You either show everything and close on everything. Hail Mary, pray for it. Obviously, it's got to make sense that they have a kid that needs everything, right? Or kids that need everything. But my second summer, I did it.
Or be European.
Yeah. Or be European. Yeah. My second summer, I did it shopping cart style, which was high risk, high reward. High risk, high reward, which is why I had some money, like much more bigger packages that second summer, but less customers. So this point in the game, I had already checked into the town. I've told some of the story before. I checked into a town. The town clerk, I was like, hey, do you know, it's a tiny little town. And I go, hey, do you know how many houses have children? And
40.
so she knew the number, and it was like 40. I sold to like 35 of them or something. I can't remember. It was like I destroyed this town. Like whoever sold over me in that town must have been like, what the fuck happened here? Like they dropped the European.
Isn't that a great feeling?
In this town, and then they left, and that was it. But at this point, I already had like halfway through the names. I already had a cop in there. I had a teacher. I had my list of names was the shit. But people in that community, when it's tight knit, I almost recommend doing it this way because they're so competitive with each other. And so if someone gets a backboard for a basketball hoop, someone else has a backboard for the basketball. I mean, if someone gets, so it works. They got a pool, you got to get a pool, right? New SUV. So at this point, I'd already had a couple of big ponies. And I'm telling you, I already had sold a few bags. And so every house I was doing this, but this was my favorite one because the dad comes up and he's like, we're not interested. I'm like, oh, me either. He goes, what? I'm like, yeah, they're not for me. They're for your kids. He goes, what do you mean for my kids? It's
so good.
I'm like, I don't know. It's, the Johnsons, Officer Steve, whatever, they've all bought for their kids. It's just educational stuff. But honestly, you guys are hard to find because you're so spread out. But every time I found a family, pretty much they've bought. I think I'm on a, I would go on a roll for like 7 and then stop. It was like 6 or 7 like that. And so, yeah, I mean, all these people bought. It's for school. But if you want your kids to be the ones that are behind next year, that's on you, man. I was aggressive because he came at me so hard.
Confident. You were confident. You said, "Yeah, we don't want it. That's fine."
He came at me hot. And then it's in Massachusetts and Hampshire, so you kind of got to be a little more direct. And he's like, "All right, come on in." I'm like, "All right." So I come inside, and then the cool thing about beating a hard dad is that when you win and you establish that confidence, they are the best part of the sale because they might as well be following you and telling you about all the benefits because you almost kind of, anyway. So I get inside, kids come out, the kids are great. Mom comes out. She's a little like more skeptical, but if I'm in there, if dad's in with me, then it must be for a reason. So we're sitting there going through, kill the demo. I'm having fun with the kids. I do the Dylan Barr thing where it's like, are you getting A's and B's, B's and C's, C's and D's, D's and F's, like making them laugh, dropping the whole at the price buildup. I'm like, yeah, Tammy told me that she bought a couch for $2,000 and all she do is sit on it. Like just dropping all the hits, all the hits. And the dad's just like loving it. The mom's loving it, but we get time. So this is what I've been doing. I'm like, they're like, well, what should we get? And I was like, well, to be honest with you, I let everybody pick their cart. It's a la carte, right? So I showed you the black books. You can get them divided. I would break it down to the smallest package. I'm like, you can even get just 3 of these Ask Me's. It's all good. I don't care. Everybody's getting something though, so it's your call. But the Swansons and the Gamboas and the Levines and the Housleys and the Lesters all got everything.
Yes, and they're like, oh shoot, well they got everything.
Well, they got everything.
And their families look like your families. Now, when I was over there,
Oh,
now when I was over there, you know, Jake Levine's kid, he said he was going to be the starter of the varsity team. And I don't know about you. And so like I would like, cause I had all of the pre-approach. I married my turf. I knew every teacher. Like I'm telling you, when you're in the zone, you're just like, I can't miss. So I just started pinning each kid. And like, you know, Emma said she was going to get a higher ACT score. And by the way, I'm not making this up. Like, you know, these families talk shit about the other, like in a loving way. I'm not, the fact that Jacob and Avery are not in their heads, like, you know, the families I'm talking about. They're just like, they're the ones that the kids grew up since they were in like church from the toddler age. This is going to be what the grooms are going to be like with the Gamboas, right? It's going to be like, they're just, this is like talking between the grooms and the Gamboas, right? Or you know, the Skalkis or whatever their families have kids in the DSL world. But it's like that. And so I'm pinning this. They love me. And so then the dad's like, shit, well, it makes sense. And then I was like, here's the thing. They were able to tell me right away because they gave me the procrastination objections. Can we think about it? I'm like, they told me right away. If you can't do that, I'll have to catch you at, you know, family number 3839. And he's like, takes out his wallet, just drops the Amex right on the particulars. Sign me up for the fucking thing. Dude, like, let's go. It's so fun.
The best story.
The thud of that car just boom. I was like,
Ling.
yes, let's go. I'm like, all right, cool. Let me just get this all signed up. And we said have paper orders. And the best feeling is I used, you know, you fill up, I would only fill up with 5 names, you know, and then I flipped it over. It was a blank one. And I'm like, let's go. Dude. This is number 6. And I think it was like a Thursday night. It was
literally awesome. When it's a new one you haven't filled out yet, it's like, this is a good day.
Yeah, dude, this is the time where like selling in Big Brick it was all Big Brick. This is like a small town, so all of the houses, there was nobody who was poor. They were all like big brick houses. And the best part about that is when you go back in deliveries, like there's no, like, you don't even, sometimes they just pay right up front. So deliveries were just like those Big Break deliveries were the best. It was just
something I started doing pretty early in my career, actually. I hated collecting money at deliveries, so I just scheduled out all my payments.
Ooh, that's an interesting, risky.
I never collect money at deliveries. I schedule everything out, so it could be in fourths, whatever, but everything's paid up before I get there.
Smart.
So,
yeah, that is
on that note, to my funny story, scheduling out payments. My 4th, 5th, and 6th summer was the first time that I actually scheduled out payments past leaving the field.
Ooh, I never did that.
Risky stuff.
So
I
risky.
actually would not
So
recommend
risky.
it. It's so much more work on the back end, but
Don't do it.
Oh my God.
But it helps your ego right away, which kind of helps. But at the end of the day, not really the smartest thing to do.
Sketch.
There's some people I think you can trust them, and there's been lots of people that I have trusted. Everything's good. Actually, this summer there's only like 2 customers that owe me maybe like, actually they do owe me like $400 each, but in comparison to what everything else that happened, I'm like, 400, you know, whatever. And we're in communication. So, but this story is, I have a lot of like, and they bought stories, but this one I think is just speaks to the goodness in people, to what you're saying earlier, Amy. There was this family in this, like Indiana, the last county that I worked was just no, I'm sorry. This was actually in Kentucky. This was like middle of the hills, Kentucky. And this driveway is like way back yonder, like actually on somebody else's property, and they're not related. And it's this house that is like so run down. Like there are garbage bags in their front yard. There's like a car that has weeds growing up on it. Like their lawn has not been mown in years. So it's a very like, it looks like a low income house, unfortunately. Shout out to Hum Kombucha, by the way. We love Hum Kombucha. We are now drinking Hum Kombucha. But anyway, I think I probably went back to his house like 4 or 5 times, especially the last week of the summer, the delivery week, because I was just like, I just want to catch these people. I don't know what it is about this house that I can't catch you guys, and either you're going to suck or you're going to be really, really great. Like there's some reason. Someone once told me that the best prospects are the hardest to catch because they're so busy.
Yep.
So I still had this in my brain, like, I want to catch these people. Like, why are they always gone? And so finally, I think it was probably my last week on the field. I finally see a car there, and like, there's chickens in this yard, and there's dogs, you know, like it's just like everything is everywhere. And finally she's home, and I knock on the door, and they're playing music super loud, and I can see these girls like playing through the front door, and I'm like, don't look at them, you know, go knock on the door, look away, like don't be respectful of everything.
Oh, God forbid you look in the window.
And what happens is, anyway, I catch her. Her name's Danny. She's great. She might be listening to this. And I actually made a terrible mistake. So be wise and learn from my mistakes. I gave her the books, and she didn't give me any money at the time of sale. I gave her the books.
Don't do that.
Yeah, I did. And actually, God,
Oh.
my AirPods have been going in and out, so I can hear you guys. So I'm going to keep talking. So this Danny, she scheduled out her payments, and she is so confident. Like she is just like, I promise you. And I did this with a lot of my customers where I was like, hey, listen, I am doing you a really big favor. Whether or not I earn money on these books does not matter to me, but you need to pay for them, because otherwise I'm out that money, and I'm not going to be mad at you, but I'm going to be mad at myself for making this decision. And so I really want to trust you with this. And I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't like, I don't want to be mad at you. I don't want to create tension between us. So let's just not have that be. And it worked with a lot of people. Like they'd either be like, you know what, let me call you later about an order, or they'd put in an order. And most of them have worked out this year. So I think there is something to be said about your communication in that position. But
yeah, that's still
none
risky.
of her payments went through. It is beginning of December. There is $540 out there in the field that is just out there.
In books.
And I'm messaging her on Facebook because she messaged me on Facebook. So I message her every once in a while. I send her a text. I call her every once in a while. And the other day, I looked at my activity account, and Danny had called in without me asking and paid the full $540. So
and then she paid.
And then she paid.
We
Yeah,
haven't.
we love Danny for that.
First she took, and then she paid. That's the first time.
That's a good one.
Wow, that's a baller story. Danny, shout out if you're listening. Damn. All right, Jacob, ponytail from you, and then Amy, you can tell us your last favorite.
Okay.
Avery, you okay?
She can't hear us.
Oh, she can't hear
That's
you.
all right. She'll get back.
If you're talking to me,
There you go. Go for it, Jacob.
Yeah. So I had one in mind, but I had 2 other ones come to mind, but they're really short. So I'll do 2 really short ones and then one longer one. So first really short one is actually a story about this hoodie. So this past summer, I worked small 1,000-person towns, right?
The best.
First town I worked was Elk Mound, Wisconsin. I would love to raise my kids there, to be honest. But this past summer was the first summer I really figured out Facebook. Like, I figured out Facebook, you know? And so Elk Mound.
There's like alumni who sold before 2010 who are like, what the fuck is he talking about? Figured out Facebook.
Okay, so quick explanation for all those alumni. Basically, in the mid 2000s, Facebook was a bad thing because moms were talking bad about book people to their neighbors, and then they knew about you in a bad way. But then eventually we caught on, and we're like, wait, this could be a good thing. So what I do is I have the sheriff's office and police station of the town I'm working in post that I'm a college kid doing a good thing, and then I'm nice to the entire town, and that gets shared, 400 times. And then I have every single person I meet share my page to their 1,000-person town. So within a few days, literally, I knock on a door and they're like, "Oh, you're Jacob," and I'm like, "Yeah." Anyway, I was at that point, and I knock on this door, or actually, I tried to catch the family a few times. I had caught the dad. He knew who I was. Son's on the football team. Mom's not there. Come back. They're getting ready. Dad's getting ready for graduation party. Come back. I'm like, okay, I'll come back one more time. I come back one more time, knock on the door. It's probably 8:30, whatever p.m. Mom comes outside. Cool. We sit down, start doing the sales talk. She grabs they had 3 sons that were graduated, 1 son still in school in 10th grade. Grab him, we're cool, we're chatting. And then all of a sudden she's like, "Excuse me." She goes inside, and I'm asking the son, questions like, "Oh, how you doing in school?" Blah, blah, blah. And like a long time passes, and I'm like, this is kind of weird.
Oh, that's the worst.
She's been gone for a while.
Leave. Yeah.
I know. And I'm like, I can't move on to the next part with just the kid. And I'm like, "Hey, do you want to see if your mom's up something?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure." She comes outside. She's like, "Hey, Jacob, we're just sitting down for dinner. Do you want to come join us?"
Oh, yes. That's the best way that can go. There's a bad way that can go.
I said, yeah, I'd love to. It was the last house of the night, but literally I sit down, and while I'm eating pork chops and mashed potatoes, I'm like, "Yeah, here's the book. You can flip through. It's got math in it or whatever."
God.
Anyway, long story short, they were, a well-off family, honor roll students, captain of the football and baseball team at the same time, type shit. And they buy some math books, and then obviously I have to be like, "Hey, I'm playing a game with my roommates. We're trying to see if any families have any old sweatshirts they're trying to get rid of." And she freaking brings out this Under Armour, nice as frick, Elk Mountain football hoodie. And I'm like, "I can't take that." And she gives it to me, and I'm like, "Whoa." And then they were the coolest family. Everyone knew them, blah, blah, blah. So that was one story.
Dude, pause there for a second. Couple of things. One, if you're selling big break and the mom leaves, you could totally just close the kid, because rich moms that are cool like that are just going to go big.
Yeah, it wasn't super big break, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Just generally speaking. And 2, when they invite you to dinner, that is the biggest green, like, they're going to buy sign.
Oh, yeah.
That could be.
That, it was
I don't think I've been offered dinner that
there.
I've never sold in. Like, if they go, "Do you want to eat?" I'm like, "Oh, you're buying."
It's such a big answer, because like I could say anything and you're gonna buy. Like I could just relax and eat dinner. You're gonna buy some books anyway. You decided you're buying books.
Also,
they were.
Does bookfield food sound better when you think about it coming from the bookfield? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you just think about eating pork chops and mashed potatoes, it doesn't sound that good. But when you think of being on the bookfield and eating pork chops, you're like, "Oh, that is different. It tastes." It's like eating food high. You're like, "This tastes different. It's better."
Yeah.
Well,
because for the past 2 weeks, I've only ate rice and chicken twice.
And peanut butter and jelly sandwiches.
Yeah, no, it's a godsend. So yeah, so that was really great. I love this hoodie. Second short story. This one's shorter even, because that one wasn't that short. Third summer, towards the end of the summer, I started to figure out how to sell like a couple of books. I was like hitting stake almost every day, like end of the summer, and I'm just driving around middle of the country, and I drive past this. I'm about to pull in this house, but as I'm driving past, the mom is outside like watering the plants. And this was still at the point in time where I got nervous. People are outside, so I drove past them. Like my other story I told on my episode, I was like, "Jacob, you know that if you turn around, they'll buy." So I turn around, I pull in. Mom's inside, but Dad's sitting in a lawn chair. The kids are in the kiddie pool. I'm like, "What's that, Dad?" Whatever. Anyway, long story short, we sit down, and also this was a brand new turf. I badly
No
planned.
names, nothing.
No names. Like last 3 days of the summer, I was just breaking. I was breaking turf during the day and doing gravy at night. So I was literally just driving around like a madman, not knowing anything. Anyway, sit down with them. No names, no turf, no nothing. And I go through it with them. And I asked them, what package did you like? And they were like, we like that one. So I closed them on the black books and half of the kit books. And I dropped the price and I'm like, yeah, it's just $1,200. And they're like, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm like, well, that's for everything you wanted. We could do less. And they're like, well, how much is just the black book? I'm like, it's this much. And they're like, well, how much is just one of the black books? And I'm like, it's $130. Because I was like, I don't want to sell just one black book. And they were like, oh. And they were like, well, how much is 4 of them? And I'm like, it's this much. And they're like, well, how much are the kids' books with that? And I'm like, it's this much. And they're like, how much was all of it again? I'm like, it's this much. They're like, and the dad was like, yeah, we'll just do all of that. And I'm like, this is where we started at. But the funniest part is they were like, you said we could do payments, right? I'm like, yeah, fucking, I don't care. Do as many payments as you like. You can do it till October for all I care. We're gonna do 10 payments. I don't give a shit.
$1 a day.
And the dad was like, the dad is like, nah, honey, let's just do it all at once. It's easier. And I'm like, what are we doing here?
Oh.
We just did all that for you to pay it in full. Are you guys pulling my grips or something? So they just bought it in
Those
full.
time wasters. They're like, he's way past 20 minutes.
Okay, that was the 2 short stories. This one is a long story that I'll try to tell short. So this is actually a pony story that I really meant to tell in my episode, and I just totally forgot.
Well, we were kind of intoxicated.
Yeah, we were. So I titled this day The Funky Day. This is my 4th summer, middle to end of the summer. And by this point, I had a very long drive to turf, like an hour drive to turf, and I was dropping off a first year out of the way every morning. So I wake up this morning and I have a flat tire, basically. It's low. And I'm like, it's fine. I will just bring it to a tire shop and get it fixed in the morning. So I look at some tire shops in the town that I'm dropping my first year off at, because he works in a bigger city than me. I call all 5 of them. They're all booked the whole day. I'm like, okay, I hope my car makes it to my town, which has 1 tire shop in it. So I start driving. I'm about to leave for turf, and my first year calls me, and he's like, hey, I'm throwing up in the gas station. Can I follow you today? And the moment he said that, in my head, I was just like, I got a feeling today's gonna be a funky day. And I'm like, sure. So I pick him up and he follows me for the day. I drive again like 30 more minutes to one of my towns. I'm like, we're just gonna get a knock and then we'll drive to the other town to get my tire fixed. He's like, okay. I knock on 1 door in my town. She buys a platinum.
Which is, Amy, that's books and CA.
Okay.
Well, it was black books and kids books, but yeah, 75 units, about
75 units,
$1,400 at 8 in the morning. Casual. And I'm like, and I look at him as we're leaving, and I'm like, today's gonna be a funky day. And so we drive to the gas station or to the tire shop in a different town.
Pause for a quick second. Amy, just so you know, what Avery and I are experiencing is we've all had a funky day by what this seems to be cooking up to be, where at this point in the day where it's like your first store and you're leaving, you're like, this is
Something's
like
up.
we relate. There's a
Yeah.
right,
It's just like
Avery? Am I
something's
wrong?
off
Like we
in
know
it.
we're
It's
like
in the air. Just things aren't
it
happening.
just
like
feels
they're
you
supposed
just
to be.
know it's gonna be weird. Yeah, things are gonna
And
be
so
freaky. Swinger couples are gonna hit on you. Like
something. We drive a few like miles down. Again, this is country roads. Miles down the road to another small town that has a tire shop, because the town I was in didn't have a tire shop. It's too small. I go in a tire shop, and the owner of the tire shop is a previous customer that canceled.
Oh, karma.
good stuff.
And so I'm like, hey, what's up? I got a flat tire. It wasn't
Turn into
awkward or
Luigi.
anything. He wasn't awkward or anything. He fixed it. There was no line because this town has like a block, you know. He fixed it in 30 minutes to get back on the road. Anyway, we keep going. We have like another customer, blah, 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 whatever. I'm trying to blank it on what happened in between then and then. But then we go back to my other town. It's like we're sitting on, I guess we must have been sitting on like almost steak. And we get back to my other town. I had an appointment with this family who both worked like weird hours at Anderson Windows. And to describe their house, so you guys know like those screen doors where it's like glass panels in front of the actual door?
Storm
Yeah.
door. Yeah.
It was that, but there was no glass. You could just knock through the screen door on the actual door.
That's weird.
And outside the door, there was like a little porch, but there were no steps to the porch. You just stepped onto the porch. And the house was like, you know, it's like kind of falling apart. But
You're like they're hoarders for sure. They collect weird things.
they have a brand new Mercedes SUV in the driveway.
Let's go. The inside of the house is pristine. That's a tax move.
No.
That's a tax move.
I never get inside the house.
Oh, well, just so you know.
We sit down, and it's, you know, it's the whole family. It's the dad. It's the mom. It's the kids that are kind of weird, and the older siblings who are out of school with their boyfriend. I guess they live with each other. I don't know. Anyway, and they already own some of the books, but they bought them at like a thrift shop for like $10. So they own like part of the Explore and Learn and like the My Phone with Words or something, whatever it is, right?
Thrift shop.
And so, but they do have
Someone
like,
return a book to the thrift shop. Sorry.
but they do have.
Funniest thing ever.
But the thing is, they have like a preschooler, a middle schooler, and a high schooler.
Oh, let's go. That's a money. That's the trifecta.
And so and you know, usually I'd be like, okay, these people are broke. I'm gonna drive a small package and get out of here. But just something about it, I was like, it's a funky day, you know? And so what's really funny is I have a thing I do where I don't sell people's honors books unless I think they're going to take AP classes. Like, I don't care if they're the most rich person in the world. I don't care if they buy it and not give a shit. Like, you don't need it, I'm not going to sell it.
That's an ethical thing to do. Well done. Yeah.
And so I was going through it, and they were really into the FBL, and they liked the kids' books, and they liked the Advantage books. And like, I was like, I don't give a shit, you know, whatever. And like, the sit down was shit. Like, I was like, why are we sitting here? We're sitting in the dirt off the porch.
You get bit by mosquitoes. Oh,
the kids are not involved at all. They don't seem super enthused. I'm like, can we leave or something? Like, this is horrible. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. And I just drop everything on them. Like the FBL, the rest of the kids' books, all 6 black books, and I don't think I dropped the C8, but I might have. I don't know. And they bought it.
Just take it. Yeah. Just take it.
Yeah. And the payments went through.
Mhm.
2 payments of $750 or whatever.
Ooh.
That's
So
incredible.
this was the end of the summer.
Best pony story. Funky day. What happens next? No, I know there's more coming. You can't just end it there. No. Some shit happens.
Yeah, leave that house. There's just one more thing I remember, but it sticks out in my head. Again, this is like 1-2 p.m. But there's just one more thing I remember that really sticks out in my head. I honestly can't remember the rest of the day. But gravy hits 5 p.m. And this town loved me. Like Glenwood City, Noah's going there for years to sell books because quick tangent on the story. One of my roommates, one of the first years, he was selling in like a giant city, like 80,000 people, and not having a great summer. And he would follow me and just like, he would follow me like after I built the best PR in the world and everyone loved me already. And he'd be like, we'd get back to the HQ and be like, you know, I knock on doors for 14 hours a day. My fists are bleeding. I'm getting doors slammed. It's horrible. And Jacob just walks down the street. People throw their wallet at him. And this one time, he was following me one time in the same city of the funky day. And we're at a door, and this mom comes outside, and she's like, oh, you know, who are you? What you doing? And then, I shit you not, a class of like second graders walks down the sidewalk behind us, and like 5 of them are like, hey, Jacob, we love the books we got. My first year was like, this is so stupid.
Oh my god.
And then the mom sits down with us. But anyway, so yeah, I had good PR in this town. I knock on this door, and these 2 identical 4-year-olds open the door and just say, we're not interested, and then close the door. And I'm like, honestly, yeah, why the fuck not?
You were gonna get murdered in the house.
I don't remember much more from that day, but it was just such an off day from the start. And I just kind of let go, and I was like, you know what? We're just gonna let it happen and just let this day happen to us in the best way.
Mm-hmm.
It was a funky day,
bro. The funky days are the best. Amy, what story sticks out in your mind? I actually have one that I want to share. That's kind of like a good way to close it. It's like 2 minutes maybe, but it's a good.
I mean, I will be really short because I don't remember all of the details of it, mostly because it's also not my story. It's just one that I've heard. But kind of glancing back through notes that I've taken, Jack Clark III shared about when one of the guys on his team, I don't know if it was a kid that he recruited, but was legitimately kidnapped. And so I would love to hear that guy tell the story of what he experienced, because Jack told it like, and then like, these are kind of the pieces that we were able to put together. But yeah, that's a story that I would like to hear more of.
That's
crime junkie within me. Like, wait, what? What were they actually after? And why did they mistake you for that guy? And I think it would be really fascinating. So that was one that definitely
we need to find that person. We need to find who that
was.
There's
a lot of pony stories about cars, like car problems, about poop stories. I mean, of course, like, and I dropped the bag. But like kidnap story, that was definitely a unique.
Oh, Avery's got one.
Everybody has one.
And Jacob.
Wait, just quick callback to advanced sales. The Jack Clark and Sarah Jane Barnett advanced sales, also one of my favorites. It's a rare gem, but if you find it, it's really good. Anyway, that's it.
Mine really quick was that someone's parents came to the field and like pretty much they didn't actually kidnap them, but they pretty much like showed up in the middle of the night and were like, "You're coming home with us," because they did not want their kid out there so badly. Yeah,
Did they go home?
they went home. Yeah, the kid went home. They're like,
Oh,
yeah.
I'd be like, "Fuck you, mom and dad."
I know there's so many more
Freaking-
circumstances.
That's
I'm sure someone will
dedication to not want your kids.
Somebody's roommate. Somebody was roommate with that person, and I want them on this show to tell us the story.
I know the OL very closely, so do you all, and he will be on the show soon.
Oh,
maybe
enough.
season 8, maybe season 9. We don't know.
Got it. I understand.
Okay.
Yeah, no, this isn't necessarily
Wrap
like
it
a
up,
ponytail,
Andres.
but yeah, this isn't necessarily a ponytail, but this kind of relates to the podcast itself. We're approaching 200. One of the reasons we want to do this episode is because we're approaching 200, and we kind of want to make that a big deal that we've gotten to 200 episodes. Fun facts about podcasts: there may be 3 million of them out there. I gotta fact check this, but I was given this information by someone I trust about this information. So, take it with a grain of salt if you wish. There's about 3 million podcasts out there. 90% of them don't go past 3 episodes, and 1% of those don't go past 75, I think, or something is what he said. So the fact that we're approaching 200, it puts us, according to those statistics, which makes sense with the viewership that we're seeing and the growth that we saw across our platforms, as you guys in here know. So I'm just really proud of what's happening here. This reminds me of the story from my first summer, actually. I've told half of this story before, my first store, where it was a grandma. She opens, she's like, "I don't have any kids, but my kids live down the street and they have kids." I put that down on my pre-approach pad, and then I didn't go back to that door until delivery week. And then I knocked on their door with all this confidence after the first summer that I had was a good summer. I had a blast. And so I had a lot more confidence going to that door. They bought the 1 through 6 because that's really all they needed. They had younger kids, and none of their kids were really college bound. So 1 through 6 was probably the biggest package for them. One of them was taking AP classes, but he was probably going to go to trade school, but he was taking AP classes anyway. But what I think back on the story, the reason I wanted to share this is because when I remember the feeling of sitting on their porch when they were giving me the check for $600 after I had already sold PC, I had dropped a few bags that summer, and thinking back to, I'm like, wow, my summer started 4 doors down, and who I was at that point was so different than the person that I am just sitting here on this porch today taking this check for, $600, $700 for these books. And it's kind of the feeling I have now, where having this conversation takes me back to, Brandon Q. And I think of Brandon Q and who we were. Brandon Q is episode 3. So I think of Jeff Powers, episode 1. And I think of like what we were doing, how we were doing it. And this feeling right now, looking at what we produced and what we're making, makes me feel a little bit like I felt that day. Well, a lot like I felt that day, where it was like, wow, look how far we've come. I can see the beginning. I can very clearly see the beginning. But at the same time, I knew I was already coming back for another summer, and I knew my path with Southwestern wasn't done yet. So I had a lot to look forward to, a lot to grow from. My path is still being written with Southwestern indirectly through this podcast, right? And so little did I know how much still was left to travel and how big it was going to change my life. But I feel the same way about it now. It's like it feels like a Russian doll just popping up. And so I just want to say I'm really thankful for all 3 of you. NamJam, I'm thankful for you as well. Another person that's part of our team, instrumental really to what we're doing. And I'm very thankful that you guys are on this journey with me. I'm thankful for everyone who's been a part of it: Heather Dutton, Nick Taverdi, Julian Gamboa, everyone that came to Bisler. And so just wanted to say thank you so much for these fun 7 seasons that we've had. We're looking forward to, we already know season 8 is going to start off with 2 giant bangs, and probably going to end with an even bigger bang that we are not going to announce yet. And so if you guys are still drinking, if you got just water, cheers to the Ponytails podcast, to what we're building here, to what we can become.
I can't
And
cheers with an empty cup. I'm sorry.
that's okay. That's okay. But cheers to you guys. Thank you so much. We're gonna look back on season 7, episode 24, end of the season, and think, wow, look how far we still came.
Yeah.
So on that note, thank you guys very much for listening. Hope you guys have a fantastic, phenomenal holiday season. We are filming this, and this is gonna drop right before Christmas. So if you're listening to this in the middle of summer, just think happy Christmas vibes. But thank you so much. Hope you guys have a good off season. We'll see you for season 8. We're gonna kick it off with Dave Rosen. More a bit of a trailer for that to come. Peace out, everyone.